Chapter 87. It was already late at night. However, Wang Zhong was still awake. The mute girl woke up and saw Wang Zhong studying something on the stone table. She couldn't help but feel sorry for him. She got up and added some firewood to the fire beside Wang Zhong. She placed a bowl of mutton soup on the side and said softly, "Blockhead, it's late. Why aren't you resting?" Wang Zhong didn't even turn his head and said, "Mute girl, how big do you think the wasteland is?" "I don't know." The mute girl tilted her head. She didn't understand why Blockhead would ask this. After so many years, the desolate people had gotten used to living in this boundless wasteland. They had never thought about what was outside of the wasteland. Wang Zhong said, "After obtaining the wealth of 5 claws and some other tribe leaders, I found some maps among their supplies." Wang Zhong pointed at the map that had been spread out in front of him. The map drawn on the sheepskin was very blurry and looked like it was from a long time ago. There were many mistakes in many places. However, Wang Zhong had lived in the wasteland for many years, so he could still recognize some of the maps on it. "This map is very big. Our stone tribe's location is not bad. There are forests and stone fields around us. However, no one has ever passed through the forest. No one knows what lies at the end of the forest." Wang Zhong's tone was a little regretful. His mission in this life was to unify the wasteland. However, after obtaining these maps, he realized that the wasteland was really too big. These maps didn't even show where the edge of the wasteland was. It seems that after dealing with the surrounding tribes, the first thing to do is to design a suitable means of transportation. The next day before dawn, Wang Zhong led a team of more than 100 people. He brought the surrendered warriors and attendants of the Wild Grass tribe to the Wild Grass tribe. As for the Big Fish tribe, Wang Zhong arranged for the mute girl and Big White. These 2 women now had their own troops and had the ability to take charge of a certain area. Therefore, Wang Zhong decided to let them lead people to persuade the Big Fish tribe to surrender. After all, he would have to fight for many years in the future. He couldn't do everything himself. After arriving at Big Fish's Wild Grass tribe, sure enough, Big Grass' eldest son led the remaining 30 warriors and rushed out. It was a pity that after seeing the huge army behind Wang Zhong, fear appeared on their faces. Wang Zhong threw Dacao's head to the other side and shouted, "Dacao is dead. Dead. No wonder he didn't come back last night. He's really dead." For a moment, the warriors of the Wild Grass tribe were in chaos. "I believe you've all heard of the rules of our stone tribe. As long as you surrender, we won't kill you. Those who were originally warriors can directly become warriors of our stone tribe. As for the others, I'll guarantee your safety. From now on, you'll be part of our stone tribe," Wang Zhong said calmly. As Wang Zhong's words fell, the minds of the people of the Weed tribe became active. Even the sons of Big Grass became timid. People in the wilderness did not have the concept of revenge, nor did they have the tradition of fighting for the tribe. For them, all wars were for food and women. In other words, they were fighting for themselves. Now that Wang Zhong promised not to kill them, they had no reason to continue fighting. Wang Zhong also saw this characteristic of the desolate, so every time they fought, he would persuade them to surrender. "That, you promise you won't kill us?" Someone on the other side shouted. After that, many people looked at Big Grass' eldest son. They were all worried that Big Grass' son would not agree to surrender. Wang Zhong nodded and said, "You can see that I have many warriors from other tribes around me. They can survive and become members of our stone tribe. Why can't you?" After that, Wang Zhong changed the topic. "Of course, if you continue to resist, I promise I'll cut you into pieces." The people on the other side suddenly became nervous. In fact, people with discerning eyes could see the strength of both sides at a glance. Fighting with Wang Zhong's people was like hitting a rock with an egg. "Surrender, we surrender." At this time, Big Grass' son, who was the most worried, directly threw away his weapon and rushed over to shout. Wang Zhong nodded in satisfaction. This was the result he wanted. After dealing with the Desolate Grass tribe and the Big Fish tribe, Wang Zhong led 200 warriors and 300 desolate slaves towards the Wild Boar tribe in a grandiose manner that night. However, after arriving, Wang Zhong found out that the Wild Boar tribe's leader had already been beheaded by his subordinates, and given to Wang Zhong as a gift. Wang Zhong was very satisfied. Dealing with the wild boar tribe, without shedding a drop of blood, was very important to his reputation. In just a few months, the stone tribe had annexed several tribes. For a time, the other tribes were in a state of panic. After all, everyone's tribes were about the same size. Now Wang Zhong had more than 10,000 people under him. The number of warriors was close to 500, who in the nearby tribes could be his match. However, what made these people heave a sigh of relief was that as long as they surrendered, the stone tribe would not kill them. This made many people give up on fighting. Another strange thing was that many people were curious. Could the stone tribe support so many people? It was indeed very difficult to support them. This was also Wang Zhong's biggest problem. During the rainy season a few days ago, there was a shortage of food in the entire Great Wilderness. After that, Wang Zhong used war to support war, allowing the tribe's food to be buffered. Furthermore, by planting crops in the house, the food supply was stable. However, now that the population was increasing, the tribe's method of storing food was still primitive. It was somewhat wasteful. Therefore, after looking at the map, Wang Zhong immediately decided to temporarily cease fighting and allow the tribe to develop well. As the population increased, the entire tribe became crowded. Therefore, Wang Zhong allowed the newly joined tribes to move to the stone quarry. The stone quarry was not far from the original tribe. It took about half an hour to walk there. It was very convenient. In terms of planning, the stone quarry was planned to be larger. There would be 5-meter-tall watchtowers built around it for vigilance. In terms of food, he would arrange for 3 teams of 30 people to hunt in the forest every day. Other than hunting, they would also pick wild fruits and look for any edible food. As for the entrance of the forest to the stone quarry, Wang Zhong specially designed clothes that could completely seal people up. He then sent someone to wear the clothes and burn the super hornets' nest in the forest with a torch. What surprised him was that the fire was very big. The entire forest was on fire. It burned continuously for more than a month, before it gradually disappeared. Wang Zhong was very excited about this. He looked at the countless charred wood at the edge of the stone quarry and sighed. With so much wood, I can definitely build many houses. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of another year. However, this year, Wang Zhong did not conduct any warrior assessment. In his opinion, the warrior assessment was not only a waste of time, but also meaningless. If he wanted his subordinates to be strong, he had to rely on the collective strength. No matter how strong an individual was, how powerful could he be? Therefore, this year, Wang Zhong stood on the square and looked at the countless people below. He officially announced that the warrior assessment was officially cancelled. The warrior assessment is cancelled. Some of the desolate slaves who wanted to participate in the assessment were shocked. However, most of them were disappointed. This was because many of them wanted to rely on the warrior assessment to make a comeback. However, Wang Zhong's following words excited all the desolate slaves. I announce that from today onwards, all desolate slaves are cancelled. Desolate slaves are allowed to own their own property. Regardless of whether they are servants or warriors, they will be handed over to the enforcement team for punishment if they beat or kill others. Chapter 88. As soon as Wang Zhong finished speaking, many desolate slaves shed tears of excitement. In the past, they had lived in fear. If they did not do well, they would be scolded or beaten by their masters. Even if they were beaten to death, no one would say anything. However, it was different now. In the future, they would no longer be lowly desolate slaves. They could have their own property. Now the tribe had a law enforcement team. Even if the warriors wanted to beat them, they could not be beaten. For the first time, they felt a sense of belonging in the stone tribe. They no longer wished to become desolate slaves. They wanted to protect the stone tribe. Only in the stone tribe could they be normal people. Protect the stone tribe. Every desolate slave thought this. This news did not affect the servants. On the contrary, many servants welcomed this law. This was because the warriors could not beat them as they wished. However, after Wang Zhong spoke, some warriors felt somewhat dissatisfied. After all, the desolate slaves were their property. They could be beaten or scolded. Now the desolate slaves were protected by the law. No one would feel happy about that. However, while they felt dissatisfied, no one dared to question Wang Zhong's decision. Even Wu Hua's former sons were very obedient to Wang Zhong. This was especially so for Daniel. He was afraid that Wang Zhong would take revenge on him. Daniel had already proposed to give the position of chief to Wang Zhong. However, Wang Zhong did not say anything, sparing Daniel's worthless life. Wang Zhong's prestige was too great. Under his management, the warrior's authority was greatly reduced. Furthermore, Wang Zhong used servants and desolate slaves the most. The warriors had seen those people fight before. They were not inferior to them. Hence, they only felt dissatisfied in their hearts. No one dared to express it. Now, I will continue to announce that the property of everyone in the tribe will be protected. Thieves will work as coolies for 3 years. Robbers will work as coolies for 10 years. For those who gather a crowd to fight, those who take the initiative to attack will work as coolies for 1 year. For those who take liberties with women of good families, they will work as coolies for 3 years. For those who take liberties with the wives and daughters of prostitutes, they will work as coolies for 10 years. As there were not many people, these were the laws that Wang Zhong announced for now. It was mainly to reduce conflicts within the tribe. After all, the population was increasing. If there were no rules, it would easily lead to riots. With these laws, not only would the servants and desolate slaves have a stronger sense of belonging, but they would also be united. There would not be any conflicts in the tribe, and they would be able to develop better. At the same time, Wang Zhong gathered everyone in the tribe who had skills. There were stonemasons, carpenters, and architects. These people added up to hundreds of people. In order to speed up the construction of the houses in the tribe, he asked these people to bring 5 or more apprentices with them to start building houses vigorously. In terms of hygiene, Wang Zhong also made arrangements. Every household must have a toilet. In the future, no one was allowed to urinate or defecate anywhere. This was to prevent the outbreak of an epidemic due to the dirty environment. With so many people living here, water was naturally a big problem. But it doesn't matter. After the forest was engulfed by the fire, many beasts escaped. Now the river running through the forest was the tribe's water source. For the convenience of irrigation, Wang Zhong also ordered people to dig ponds around the tribe to store water. The entire tribe was in the midst of construction. On this day, Wang Zhong brought the mute girl and a group of people to the stone quarry to choose some weapons. As the new year had just passed, the weather was still very cold. When he went over, Wang Zhong was stunned. He discovered that a group of people from the wild grass tribe were warming themselves around a fire. The fire was not made of wood, but black stones. It's actually coal. Wang Zhong hurriedly ran over. Where did this come from? A few people hurriedly stood up. One of the older ones said, "This is a black stone. It was originally on the mountain of the wild grass tribe. After a big fire, we found that this black stone was still burning. It burned much longer than wood, so we found some and brought it here for the fire." Not bad, not bad. Quickly bring me to take a look. Wang Zhong was extremely excited. If there was coal in this world, it meant that there was a high possibility of iron ore. If that was the case, he could rely on these 2 items to produce iron. Once he had iron and equipped his tribe, his cavalry army would be able to sweep through the entire vast wilderness. That day, Wang Zhong led his men to the former wild grass tribe. Now, the people here had already moved away, leaving behind a pile of rubble. The mountain with the coal mine that the desolate slave had mentioned was behind the wild grass tribe. The tribe was built on the mountain, and the terrain was quite good. There were not many trees on the mountain, so after taking a few steps, one could find large chunks of coal under the soil. An idea formed in Wang Zhong's mind as he looked at the coal. After returning, Wang Zhong found 5 carpenters and began to design handcarts. This way, it would be much more convenient to transport things in the future. Of course, he did not know how to do it himself, so he only designed the blueprints and got the carpenters to slowly make it. At the same time, he ordered people to capture the elephants and bison in the wilderness. He planned to domesticate these animals and use them as transportation power in the future. The tribe developed in an orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was already 22 years old. Over the years, he and the mute girl had 2 fat sons, and the tribe's population increased by a third. As for the fields, the desolate slaves and servants had their own property, and Wang Zhong only required them to hand over a portion of their output every year. Therefore, they were very enthusiastic and worked exceptionally hard to open up new lands. Therefore, there was already a lot of land. Over the years, Wang Zhong had sent his subordinates in all directions, and had them draw maps of the places they went and hand them over to him. Now, there was a large map drawn on the wall of Wang Zhong's wooden house. And now, Wang Zhong finally had a clearer understanding of the entire vast wilderness geography. To the south was a boundless forest, to the north was an endless mountain range, and to the east and west were tribes of various sizes. As everyone in this world traveled long distances by walking, Wang Zhong did not know what the situation on the other side was like after dealing with these tribes. Iron, I need iron and horses. Wang Zhong looked at the map and frowned. Blockhead, blockhead. At this moment, the mute girl came in with 2 servants. She had a look of joy on her face. Mute girl, what's wrong? Wang Zhong turned around. Typically, the mute girl would not be so excited unless she encountered something that made her happy. After they entered the house, a skinny monkey walked in. He was young and looked travel-worn. It seemed like he had been wandering outside for a long time. Wang Zhong naturally knew who this person was. He was the person he had arranged to draw the map. Typically, Wang Zhong would send such people out for a month. During this time, not only did they have to draw the map, but they also had to find things he needed. For example, horses and iron ore. These people naturally did not recognize these things, but it did not matter. Before they set off, Wang Zhong had not only described the characteristics of these things to them, but he had also drawn them. Wang Zhong remembered that this person was called Skinny Monkey. He did not have much strength, and was very thin. In the past, he was bullied by many people in the Big Fish tribe. However, he had a specialty, which was that he could run fast. Therefore, Wang Zhong found him to be a pathfinder. After every pathfinder returned, they had to meet him to report what they had seen and heard in the past month. If there was a major discovery, he would reward them with many things. Skinny Monkey, look at how excited you are. Did you discover something during this trip? Wang Zhong looked at him sternly. Chapter 89. The skinny monkey-like man was very timid. When he faced Wang Zhong, his tanned face revealed a look of reverence. The mute girl consoled him. Tell the chief what you just saw. If it's true, the chief will reward you with a lamb. Lambs were very precious in the tribe. It was equivalent to a reward of $10,000 in modern society. Hence, when the skinny monkey-like man heard this, his eyes lit up as he knelt on the ground. Chief Mutta, this is the map I drew. I listened to you and circled around those tribes. After passing by more than 10 tribes, I discovered something called a horse. You discovered a horse. Wang Zhong's eyes lit up. He knew it. How could there be no horses in the grasslands? From the looks of it, it was not that there were none. It was just that the wilderness was too big. Tribes would at most interact with the surrounding tribes. Hence, they did not know about the outside world. It's a horse. I saw it with my own eyes. I even saw someone riding a horse. Right, I met a desolate slave who was working outside. He said that they were a horse tribe. Those horses were caught, and only the chief and a few elders had the right to ride them. The skinny monkey-like man replied respectfully. Oh, not bad. Wang Zhong nodded his head slightly. From this, he could deduce that the horse tribe had only begun to tame horses. They did not know how to use horses to fight. Otherwise, the horse tribe could probably sweep through the entire wilderness with their cavalry. At this moment, he already had an idea. Over the years, the stone tribe had rested for many years. They no longer lacked food and animals. The housing had also improved greatly. Everyone had a house to live in. As for the soldiers, there were a total of 1,000 regular soldiers and 2,000 reserve soldiers. These people knew how to cooperate with each other. They would definitely not be careless when fighting. Oh, it's about time to sweep through. That night, Wang Zhong gathered the upper echelons of the tribe for a meeting. Everyone, The tribe has already developed to this point. There are no longer any enemies in the surroundings. Hence, I plan to send out troops to occupy the other tribes. Wang Zhong stood in front of the wall with the map hanging on it and said, "There are 7 tribes around us. The tribes are not large in scale. In the past, we did not deal with them, because we wanted to recuperate. Now that our tribe is so strong, we can deal with them. Once we get rid of them, we won't have to worry about anything else. We can charge straight in." Wang Zhong took the white stone and drew a path towards the horse tribe. "Chief, why are we attacking this tribe in a straight line?" Someone asked curiously. "That's right. There are several tribes along the way. Wouldn't it be troublesome to leave them alone?" Wang Zhong said, "Because I need an animal from this tribe." He didn't explain too much. Instead, he came up with a few plans. In order to save time, Wang Zhong planned to deal with these tribes in 3 days. However, he didn't realize that he had overestimated the resistance of these tribes. Seeing Wang Zhong lead his army to attack, these tribes did not resist at all. Instead, their leaders led their people to surrender. This made Wang Zhong a little stunned, but he soon felt relieved. In the end, the advantage of his army was too great. Not only did they have long-range attacks, but they were also well-organized, well-trained, and disciplined. These advantages were not something that ordinary tribes could compare with. After taking over these tribes, Wang Zhong didn't let them live here. He thought about it. His tribe was still too small. Since these tribes could develop on their own, it was better for them to stay here. Of course, the original leaders of the tribes were all arranged to stay in his own tribe. He named that place Stone Village. In other words, these 7 tribes didn't have their previous names. Now they were called Stone Village 1, Stone Village 2, and so on. In order for the villages to develop well, he sent craftsmen and began to organize people to dig ditches to store water and plant fertile land. After a few months, the situation of these villages had greatly improved, making people feel gratified. Now the Stone Tribe's name had spread across the wilderness. The other tribes were in a state of panic, afraid that the Stone Tribe would attack. Wang Zhong didn't care about this anymore. Now that he had enough soldiers, he didn't have to worry about dealing with these tribes. Now the most important thing was how they were going to travel a long distance. Fighting a war required logistics. Without good logistics, it would be a problem for the army to eat, drink, and go to the toilet. For example, drinking water. If they casually drank dirty water outside, it might cause diarrhea. At that time, it would be very harmful to the army. However, very quickly, Wang Zhong found a very good idea. He prepared to use these villages as a foothold for the army. This way, not only would they not have to carry food, but they would also have a place to stay. Thus, he once again began to attack the tribes in the direction of the horse tribe. As the number of villages increased, they all became footholds. A year later, the Stone Tribe's village was very close to the horse tribe. Now the Stone Tribe had 18 villages. The original leaders of these tribes were all arranged to work in the Stone Tribe. The management was managed by Wang Zhong's trusted aides. The horse tribe naturally discovered this long ago. After some consideration, the horse tribe's leader, Dama, finally decided to surrender. At least this way, he could keep his wealth. If he stubbornly resisted, even 10 lives wouldn't be enough to kill him. Everyone remember, these are the horses of the horse tribe. We spent more than a year annexing other tribes for these animals. Wang Zhong had a picture of a horse hanging behind him. He solemnly said, "When you see these animals, no one is allowed to harm them. Do you understand?" "Yes, leader." The people below all shouted in unison. "Ada, the leader of the horse tribe outside is here." At this time, Wang Zhong's son Dama ran over. Dama looked strong and strong. His small stature was very similar to Wang Zhong's. Wang Zhong carried his son and asked, "The leader of the horse tribe is here?" "Yes, they also brought the horse you always wanted," Dama said in a childish voice. "Good. Since they obediently came over, let's go out." At this time, the horse tribe's leader, Dama, and his 30 warriors walked into the tribe. They clearly remembered that this tribe used to be called the Tiger Tribe. There were 200 warriors in the tribe. However, in one night, the Stone Tribe led countless people to attack this place. Although the leader resisted with all his might, he still died. Now the head of the tiger tribe's leader was hanging at the entrance. The tiger tribe was no longer called the tiger tribe. This place was called the Stone Tribe's Tiger Village. Leader, I heard that as long as we surrender, the Stone Tribe won't kill us. An elder of Dama respectfully reminded. Fortunately, we took the initiative. If the Stone Tribe's leader is happy, he might even make you the village leader. Dama nodded. Let's wait and see. I hope the Wood Tribe's leader is easy to talk to. As he spoke, Dama stroked the horse he had brought over. His tribe raised more than 20 horses. Relying on these horses, they could travel very far. It was very suitable for escaping. He believed that the Wood Tribe's leader would definitely like such a good thing. Finally, Wang Zhong walked out. After seeing Wang Zhong, Dama was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the Stone Tribe's leader, who shocked the wasteland, was such a young person. However, after the shock, he immediately half knelt on the ground and lowered his head to Wang Zhong. I am the Horse Tribe's leader, Dama. I know that the Wood Tribe's leader is here, so I brought 5 horses for you. Wang Zhong nodded. This leader was quite sensible. Chapter 90. Are these the horses you trained? Wang Zhong touched the horses. These horses were about the same size as the domesticated horses of the Great Dragon Dynasty. This was mainly because the people and animals of this world were bigger. Therefore, these horses were also very big. A warrior sitting on them would not cause much of a burden to these horses. Yes, Chief Mutu. Speaking of which, these horses were also domesticated by me when I was Ada. Over time, our tribe has more than 20 horses. These things are very fast when riding on them. Chief, I have a suggestion. Dama lowered his head and lowered his attitude. Tell me. Wang Zhong did not let Dama stand up. Sometimes he needed to maintain his dignity. Chief Mutu, you are invincible. I, Dama, admire warriors like you the most. Therefore, I suggest that my horse tribe merge with the stone tribe. I, Dama, am willing to become the village chief and raise horses for you. Dama's words struck a chord in Wang Zhong's heart. Although he knew that horses were very useful, he had only ridden them before. He did not know how to raise horses. It was worth mentioning that although he was a veterinarian, he had only treated illnesses of domestic animals. He had never treated horses before. Since Chief Dama has said so, then all right. Wang Zhong nodded. Get up. Kneeling is tiring. Not tiring, not tiring. Dama laughed. Also, I will not call you chief in the future. I will be the village chief of Dama village. This child was worth teaching. Wang Zhong was satisfied. All right, I will give you the title of village chief of Dama village. In the future, the task of your village will be to raise horses. I need 200 war horses. Calculate how long it will take to get them. So many? Dama frowned. It seems that we need to go to the wilderness to capture them. However, these horses are too fast. We can only capture ponies. I will leave these matters to you. Let's go to your Dama village to take a look. Chief Mutu, it is Dama village. The group arrived at Dama village. Just as they reached the entrance, the entire Dama village began to blow the horn. The desolate slaves and servants on both sides of the road welcomed Wang Zhong and his team. This Big Ma looks simple and honest, but he is a good person. He even knows how to welcome me. Wang Zhong's impression of Big Ma deepened. It could be seen that Big Ma was very slick in doing things. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Therefore, everyone in the tribe was the same. When they saw Wang Zhong coming over, they couldn't wait to kneel at his feet. This was especially true for Dama. When Wang Zhong went over, all 3 of his daughters were dragged out. Leader, these are my 3 daughters, eldest Ya, second Ya, and third Ya. They are still young. If you like, let them serve you. Don't worry, they are very obedient. These 3 girls all looked to be in their teens. All of them had their heads lowered. From time to time, they would raise their heads to look at Wang Zhong curiously. When they saw Wang Zhong looking at them, they lowered their heads shyly. Wang Zhong was a little exasperated. Although he didn't really like these girls, he still nodded in order to reassure Dama and allow the 3 girls to follow behind Dabai. Seeing that Wang Zhong had accepted his daughters, Dama breathed a sigh of relief. As a leader, what they were most afraid of was that after the tribe was occupied, they would be liquidated. Now that he saw that Wang Zhong had accepted his 3 daughters, he was very happy. In the future, Mu Tu would be his son-in-law, and the stone tribe would be his home. Now that he thought about it, he only used his 3 daughters to exchange for such a big stone tribe. It was more worth it than Wang Zhong. Dama's ability to conquer himself was not bad. Thinking about it, he beamed with joy. Of course, Wang Zhong didn't know that this guy had so many ideas. Then, he went to visit the place where the horses were raised. The horses here were well taken care of. They were in good condition, and had been domesticated well. Wang Zhong was very satisfied. Dama, take me to the wild horse habitat. I want to see how many horses there are on the grassland. Wang Zhong said. Leader, those horses are at the back of the mountain. After crossing this mountain, you will be able to see them. Dama was very attentive. After he finished speaking, he arranged for a few guides who were familiar with the back of the mountain. Wang Zhong had a thought, and climbed towards the strongest horse. Leader, these horses are shy. You can't ride them. Dama knew that some people who had never learned how to ride a horse would easily fall off the horse. At that time, they would be injured or even killed. If the leader was injured, then he wouldn't even have a place to cry. But just as he went over, he found that Wang Zhong had already gotten on the horse easily. At first, the horse wasn't used to it. But when Wang Zhong patted it lightly, the horse seemed to be able to feel it and ran forward. As expected of the leader, this is the best horse in my horse tribe village. It is actually so obedient. This time, Dama admired Wang Zhong from the bottom of his heart. Alright, less nonsense. Find a few guides who can ride horses. I want to see how many horses there are outside. Wang Zhong coldly shouted at Dama. I can do it. Also, you, the rest of you, follow me to the back of the mountain with the leader. Yes. Set. With horses, the speed was indeed fast. The group of people arrived at the foot of the mountain in about 20 minutes. Leader, the stones on this mountain are hard and very smooth. The horses can't go up the mountain. Let's get off the horse and walk. Although Dama was old, he still got off the horse immediately and wanted to help Wang Zhong down. Wang Zhong didn't take his hand. Instead, he jumped down lightly. Holding the stone knife in his hand, he came to the foot of the mountain and frowned. This mountain was a little strange. There wasn't any vegetation on the mountain. It was bare. Looking around, the stones on the mountain were very smooth. It was completely different from the stones in their quarry. He had a thought, and quickly ran over to pick up a stone. When he saw the color of the stone, he was ecstatic. He never thought that on this day, not only would he get the horse of his dreams, but he would also get the key to making ironware, iron ore. That's right, the mountain in front of him was an iron ore mine. There was a clear difference between iron ore and normal stone in terms of color, shape, and structure. Dama, you really are my lucky star. Wang Zhong couldn't help but laugh. The desolate people didn't know many words, so the others didn't know what Wang Zhong meant by lucky star. But it didn't matter. Seeing the leader so happy, Dama was also happy. He thought that he must have done something right to make the leader happy. Wang Zhong didn't know how to forge iron, but he had seen it before. After recovering the Dama tribe, Wang Zhong didn't expand anymore. Instead, he ordered his men to rest and recuperate. Normally, the regular army would continue to train, while the reserves would work in the fields. In short, he didn't want to waste any manpower. As for Wang Zhong, when he found the iron ore, he immediately ordered people to bring the coal mine over. Now that there were horses, the carpenters also made carts according to Wang Zhong's design. Although the wheels of these carts were made of wood and didn't move fast, it was much more convenient than before. Now, besides raising horses, the Dama tribe was also responsible for making ironware. Therefore, this place could be said to be the most important place outside of the Stone tribe's headquarters. For this reason, Wang Zhong specially arranged for a troop of 200 people to guard this place, and built watchtowers in all directions. Fortunately, there was no currency in the wilderness, so Wang Zhong only needed to give these people food to eat. Otherwise, after so many projects, they wouldn't have enough money. Chapter 91. To Wang Zhong, if he wanted to unify the great wilderness, there were three things that were most important. First, population. This area had been developing in a good direction. This was due to the fertile land of the great wilderness, as well as the dense forests and endless herds of beasts. Therefore, after unifying these tribes, once the social order was standardized, the population would immediately increase explosively. He did not need to worry about this anymore. Secondly, it was transportation capacity. Transportation was very important. Between these villages, some were rich in wood, some were rich in grain, and some were rich in cattle and sheep. This resulted in an imbalance of resources, so a strong transportation capacity was needed to coordinate with each other. Another thing was to march to war, which required even more transportation capacity. In the past, Wang Zhong was limited by transportation capacity. Basically, after conquering a few tribes, he would rest for a month or two. He was afraid that the logistics could not keep up, which would cause the morale of the troops to be unstable. But now there were horses. Following the mass production of wooden carts, Wang Zhong arranged for more than 10 horses to be in charge of transporting things. Now that the population and transportation capacity had been settled, the only thing left was the most important thing: equipment. Equipment was the most important thing. In the past, the weapons used by the soldiers were stone swords and stone axes. Not only were they too heavy, they were also very easy to break. Needless to say, their sharpness was simply too low. As for the desolate slaves, they could only use wooden spears, which were very easy to break. But now it was different. The iron ore and coal mines had already been found. Although they were limited by their technology, they could not produce good quality iron. But, no matter how bad the iron was, it was still better than stone tools. For this reason, after the coal mines were transported to the Great Horse Tribe, Wang Zhong and the stonemasons began to build a place to forge iron. First, they burned the coal. They placed the iron ore on top of the burning coal. Due to the limited conditions, Wang Zhong found that they could only barely soften the iron ore. After the iron ore was softened, the stonemasons used stone hammers to smash the iron ore into the shape they wanted. After a year, through the hard work of everyone in the ironworks, they could already mass-produce iron swords, iron knives, and iron hammers. Looking at the weapons that were even harder than stone, everyone was very excited. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was already 25 years old. Now that he had moved to the Great Horse Tribe, he lived in a 3-story wooden house. On this day, the Stone Tribe welcomed a new year. Wang Zhong and the leaders of the Stone Tribe stood on the roof of the wooden building and looked down at the crowd below. They officially announced that the Stone Tribe was officially named the Stone Dynasty. That year was the first year of the Stone Dynasty, and the first monarch was Blockhead. Wang Zhong officially ascended the throne and gave himself the title of Stone King. Of course, Wang Zhong didn't really care about this, but he couldn't do without these things. In order for everyone to have a sense of belonging, in order to dominate the great wilderness, he needed to establish a country and proclaim himself as the king. Stone King, Stone King, Stone King. Everyone below raised their hands and cheered for their first emperor, the King of Stone. The country was established, but Wang Zhong didn't relax at all. Desolates didn't have long lifespans. 50 years was considered a long lifespan, so he didn't have much time left. Thus, from that day onwards, he arranged for people with superb horsemanship to go out in all directions to investigate the situation. In the forest, he also organized a large number of troops to enter and look for other exits. In the end, the desolates had lived in the great wilderness for generations and knew too little about this world. In the following days, Wang Zhong's expansion speed became faster and faster. Countless large and small tribes were swallowed up, and Wang Zhong was gradually approaching the edge of the great wilderness. At the same time, the Stone Dynasty began to be known by the outside world. Those who were far away from the great wilderness all received shocking news. A Stone Dynasty had suddenly appeared in the great wilderness and swept through all the large tribes in the great wilderness in less than 10 years. Its strength was unprecedented. Of course, Wang Zhong didn't know about this, but he also noticed that something was wrong. That was, as the troops continued to advance, The desolate tribes he encountered became stronger and stronger. Some tribes not only had horses, but also iron tools. At first, Wang Zhong thought that they had left it behind, but he soon realized that wasn't the case. Chief, this is the chief of the Iron Bull tribe, Big Tai. We found iron tools in his tribe. At the front line of the tribe, a group of warriors escorted a strong man who was tied up all over. Wang Zhong frowned as he looked at this person. This person's Iron Bull tribe was the strongest tribe he had encountered in a long time. There were more than 300 warriors, and more than 1,000 servants and desolate slaves who could fight. Most importantly, this tribe had a cavalry unit of about 50 people. It was this cavalry unit that had caused Wang Zhong trouble for the first time, causing him to suffer heavy losses. Fortunately, he had quickly gathered the Iron Spear army and dealt with this small cavalry unit. He had also successfully captured the chief of the Iron Bull tribe, Big Tai. You are the chief of the Iron Bull tribe. Very good. You are the strongest tribe my Stone Dynasty has encountered. Wang Zhong looked at Big Tai, who was kneeling on the ground, and continued. Yesterday, my army defeated your cavalry. You fled with your family overnight. I want to know where you are fleeing to. There's no need to say more. Kill me or torture me. Do as you please. Big Tai closed his eyes and spoke with a heroic look. Bring him up. Wang Zhong ordered. Yes. A few people pulled Big Tai's wife and daughter over. Wang Zhong coldly said, These people are your family. What do you want? Big Tai's eyes twitched. After thinking for a moment, he threatened. I advise you not to act recklessly. The faction behind us is not something you can afford to offend. So that was the case. Wang Zhong laughed inwardly. After conquering the Iron Bull tribe, Wang Zhong had discovered something interesting. This tribe had iron weapons, cavalry, and a large population. However, the problem was that this tribe did not have a place to forge iron. Their breeding of horses was also very ordinary. Therefore, he concluded that these things were not produced by the Iron Bull tribe. In other words, this tribe was protected by a powerful country. This was similar to ancient times. Every country had a satellite country. These satellite countries were the outposts that protected the larger country. Of course, these satellite countries were also protected by the larger country. After all, they needed each other. Then tell me, what faction is behind you? Wang Zhong asked. The Great Celestial Empire. Big Tai coldly said. The Great Celestial Empire is not something you can afford to offend. Although you also produce iron weapons, your army and numbers are not comparable to theirs. The Great Celestial Empire. Wang Zhong's heart skipped a beat. This world was also in ancient times. He had always thought that the world he lived in was a tribe. But now, it seemed a bit like the ancient Tang and Song dynasties. The Tang and Song dynasties were the Great Celestial Empire, and they were similar to the tribes of the grasslands. Chapter 92. Big Tai, tell me in detail. If you tell me the truth, I promise I won't kill you, Wang Zhong said calmly. Okay, I'll tell you. The Stone tribe's leader is a man of his word. After sweeping through all the other tribes, he spared their lives. Then I'll tell you in detail. Big Tai thought for a moment and decided to give in. After all, he didn't want to die and his family was in Wang Zhong's hands. He didn't want to fight force with force. Our tribe's weapons and horses were all given to us by the Great Celestial Empire. My first wife is the daughter of the Great Celestial Empire's Prime Minister, Gulanara. After Big Tai finished, he pointed to a woman in her 40s behind him. Wang Zhong looked over. He had seen many people, and could tell that Gulanara was smaller than them. She gave off the feeling of a pretty girl from a humble family. In terms of temperament, she didn't have the rough feeling of the desolates. Her skin was white and smooth, and she wore a long dress that fluttered in the wind. Tell me about the Great Celestial Empire. I won't do anything to you, Wang Zhong promised. Gulanara bowed slightly, and started to explain the Great Celestial Empire. After her explanation, Wang Zhong finally understood. The Great Celestial Empire was really a feudal empire. The country was powerful, and had vast territory. Its population was more than 10 times that of the Desolates. The Iron Bull tribe was a subsidiary tribe of the Great Celestial Empire. So the leaders of these tribes usually married the children of important figures of the great celestial empire. Their daughters were also sent to the palace and taken in by the emperor. It was a bit like a marriage alliance. There were many subsidiary tribes like the Iron Bull tribe. These tribes all had connections with each other. Once there was a disturbance at the border, they would solve it immediately. If they couldn't solve it, they would report it to the great celestial empire, who would then send an army to suppress it. However, Wang Zhong's stone empire moved too quickly. In just 3 days, they had swept through the entire Iron Bull tribe. Therefore, the great celestial empire didn't have time to react. However, one could imagine that if they touched the Iron Bull tribe, the great celestial empire would most likely send an army over. Wang Zhong frowned. He thought that the biggest difficulty in this game would be when he was young. Unexpectedly, the big boss was actually the great celestial empire. Leader Mu Mu. Our Iron Bull tribe is a subsidiary tribe of the great celestial empire. Every year, we pay countless tributes and receive the protection of the great celestial empire. I, Gulinara, am just a woman. Although I don't know much about military matters, I have lived in the great celestial empire since I was young. I know that the great celestial empire has a powerful army with millions of soldiers. Although Gulinara didn't say anything, Wang Zhong could hear the arrogance in her voice. The great celestial empire had millions of soldiers, but what about them? Over the years, Wang Zhong had been working hard, and after merging hundreds of large and small tribes, the number of soldiers under him had reached 50,000, and the number of reserve soldiers had reached hundreds of thousands. However, compared to the millions of soldiers of the great celestial empire, it was simply a bit weak. To be honest, the reason why the great celestial empire protects us is because they wish for peace at the borders. Leader I, Gulinara, have something to advise you. Speak. Wang Zhong looked at Gulinara. This old woman still had some guts. Don't be enemies with the great celestial empire. Gulinara sighed. The great celestial empire is strong. If they know that there is trouble at the borders, I'm afraid they will really send their troops. Is that so? But I don't understand. If they are so strong, why don't they take over the wilderness? Wang Zhong asked. Although the wilderness is huge, it lacks water. Therefore, to most people, the wilderness is a barren land. There is no economic benefit in taking it over. Gulinara replied. Wang Zhong placed his hands behind his back, and his expression changed slightly. Gulinara's reply wasn't hard to understand. War depended on economic benefits. This was like the ancient times, when they felt that it wasn't worth it to fight nomads. So they didn't bother about them before they grew big. Seems like it is the same here. Wang Zhong understood and nodded. You all can go back later. Really? Big Tai was excited. That's right. If the great celestial empire asks, just say that we have no intention of going against them. Wang Zhong said this because he had no other choice. He didn't know what the great celestial empire was like. However, seeing that they controlled countless tribes at the borders, he knew that they weren't weak. If they really provoked such an existence, it wouldn't be good. Stone Dynasty had only been established for a short period of time, so he decided to temporarily retreat and rest. Although he had sent away the people from the Iron Bull tribe, he had plundered all of their ironware and warhorses. Looking at the weapon in his hand, Wang Zhong frowned. It was an iron sword that he took from Danyo's place. The edge of the sword was sharp, but the toughness of the blade was average. It could be seen that the material was also very ordinary. Looks like the great celestial empire's iron technology isn't much better than ours. With this kind of technology, if we have about the same number of people, Stone Dynasty still has a chance. However, I need more information. After making up his mind, from that day on, all the teams outside rested in the nearby tribes. They would first integrate with the local tribes and prepare for the next step of the plan. At the same time, because of the strong momentum of Stone Dynasty, the great celestial empire, which had been peaceful until now, finally noticed them. The great celestial empire had been established for hundreds of years. The current emperor was only 30 years old. He wasn't greedy for money or women, and worked hard to govern. Therefore, the great celestial empire was peaceful and had a strong army. No matter which piece of news it wasn't good for Wang Zhong's plan to unify the Great Wilderness. A month later, the Great Celestial Empire finally began to discuss the Stone Dynasty. Your Majesty, there's an urgent message from the north. A few days ago, the Stone Dynasty swept through the wilderness and came into contact with our subsidiary tribe, the Iron Bull tribe. Although the Iron Bull tribe's leader Dinyo fought to the death, he was still captured in just 3 days. Although the Stone Dynasty's leader Mu Tu released Dinyo, the threat is still too great. The other tribes have already sent people to ask for help, asking us to send troops to resist the Stone Dynasty's invasion. Your Majesty, please issue a military order to send troops to the Great Wilderness to solve the problem in the north. The Emperor of the Great Celestial Empire was called the Blue Dragon Emperor. His real name was Li Qinglong. He wasn't an ignorant and incompetent person. Therefore, the Great Celestial Empire was governed well by him. After listening to the report, Li Qinglong frowned and said, "The Stone Dynasty seems to have only been established for a few years. How did they attack our northern border in the blink of an eye? I remember that we gave the tribes at the border carriages and iron weapons. It should be enough for them to guard against them. How come they still couldn't withstand a single blow? Your Majesty, the tribes in the depths of the wilderness were indeed in a barren area. The desolate people were all ignorant and couldn't even produce iron weapons and war horses. However, the Stone tribe also produced iron weapons and war horses for some reason. It was because of these that the Stone tribe swept through the surrounding tribes. Now they have become a big problem in the north." Another official came out and said respectfully, "I think that the northern barbarians are a group of barbarians after all. Whether it's their population or the quality of their weapons, they can't compare to us." "Then you mean?" Li Qinglong asked suspiciously. "I also heard the news. The Stone Dynasty decisively retreated after hearing the Iron Bull tribe's leader Dinyo say that they are a subsidiary tribe of our country. I think that the Stone Dynasty doesn't dare. Therefore, I think that we should contact the Stone Dynasty and make them a subsidiary of our country. In the future, they will pay tribute every year. This way, not only will there be no war, but we will also gain a powerful subsidiary state. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone." Chapter 93. Listening to his subordinate's suggestions, Li Qinglong considered. At present, there were indeed 2 paths to take. One was to fight. The second was to negotiate. Fighting could indeed deal with the Stone Dynasty, but the cost was too high. Although there were millions of lions in the Great Celestial Empire, the Great Celestial Empire was too big. There were desolate people in the north, Wenlong Empire in the south, and Armani United Nations in the west. The Armani Union and the Wenlong Empire weren't like the Great Desolate North. Some countries were even stronger than them. So once they launched an attack on the Stone Dynasty, wouldn't they be caught in a pincer attack, facing enemies from both sides? Therefore, Li Qinglong subconsciously still hoped for peace. This kind of thinking was quite similar to Wang Zhong's. If they could solve it peacefully, they would try to solve it peacefully. No one knew what would happen after fighting and killing. Pass down the order, send an envoy to the Stone Dynasty. In the end, Li Qinglong made a decision. Time passed day by day. During this period, Wang Zhong took his followers and went to the Great Celestial Empire at night. He went to several big cities in a row and learned about the local customs of the Great Celestial Empire. What was certain was that the ancient times here were not the ancient times of Yellow Earth. Although it was a feudal society, martial arts were popular, and there were countless martial arts halls opened along the street. Wang Zhong bought some books here. Interestingly, the words of the books here were similar to those on Yellow Earth. So he thought that this should be a parallel world similar to Yellow Earth. After traveling for more than a month, Wang Zhong wanted to walk for a few more days, but he thought that the headquarters could not be short of his time, so he returned with his followers. Sure enough, as soon as he came back, he saw the mute girl coming with a few slave girls. "Blockhead, you're finally back." The mute girl came over and said anxiously. The Iron Bull tribe's leader, Dinyo, came with an envoy from the Great Celestial Empire. Oh, the great celestial empire sent an envoy so quickly. Wang Zhong was not surprised. Now that the Stone Dynasty was unstoppable, it would be strange if the great celestial empire did not send an envoy. He quickly changed his clothes and walked toward his residence. This place was not far from the Iron Bull tribe. It was originally a medium-sized tribe, but after Wang Zhong occupied this place, the residence was no longer a thatched hut. Instead, it was all transformed with wood into his frontline palace. Not long after, the envoy of the great celestial empire walked in. The emissary looked to be in his 40s, and there were 2 attendants following behind him. His salutation was very simple. When he walked in, these people looked around and clicked their tongues in wonder. So this was the Stone Dynasty. Sure enough, they were different from the ordinary tribes. People with discerning eyes could see at a glance that Wang Zhong's men were highly disciplined, and their faces were full of spirit. Compared to the soldiers of the Great Celestial Empire, they were not much different. Great Dragon Dynasty's envoy, Huang Pu Ming, greets the chief. Huang Pu Ming, who was wearing loose clothes, bowed when he saw Wang Zhong sitting at the head of the table. Envoy, you don't have to be so courteous. Wang Zhong nodded politely. Since the Great Celestial Empire had sent an envoy, it meant that the other party did not want to fight, so he naturally had to be polite. Please have a seat. Wang Zhong pointed at the table below. Following that, 2 maidservants came up and brought food and goat milk wine for the 3 envoys. After some pleasantries, Huang Pu Ming said bluntly, "Congratulations to the chief's army for conquering so many tribes. However, His Majesty is kind-hearted and worried about the world." After hearing about this, he was worried that the world would be plunged into misery and suffering. Therefore, he sent me here to ask the chief about the next step of the plan. Although Huang Pu Ming's words were very tactful, Wang Zhong understood the meaning behind his words. He was just saying, "What does your stone tribe mean by conquering so many tribes? I'm here as an envoy to ask." Wang Zhong muttered to himself for a while before replying, "Do you know about desolate slaves?" "Of course. Desolate slaves are slaves of the Great Desolate Plains," Huang Pu Ming said. "I was a desolate slave in the past." This, Huang Pu Ming was stunned. As the envoy of the Great Celestial Empire, he had visited countless countries and tribes. Of course, he knew that desolate slaves were unique to the Great Desolate Plains. They were equivalent to slaves. Being a desolate slave meant that this person was a lowly existence. Therefore, Huang Pu Ming was very surprised that the chief of the Stone Tribe was a desolate slave. In the Great Desolate Plains, desolate slaves are lowly. It is normal for their masters to kill them. Therefore, my wish since I was young was to establish a nation in the Great Desolate Plains. In my nation, there will no longer be desolate slaves. Everyone will have equal status, just like in your nation. Wang Zhong changed the topic and continued, "So please rest assured, Your Majesty, my goal is not to endlessly invade. I just do not want the Great Desolate Plains to continue being so chaotic. I will pass on these words." "In that case, thank you, envoy. If you don't mind, how about we talk as we walk outside?" Huang Pu Ming wanted to know more about the Stone Tribe, so he nodded and walked out with Wang Zhong. Following that, the 2 chatted for a long time. Huang Pu Ming secretly mentioned Li Qinglong's worries. In general, Li Qinglong did not want any problems at the northern border. On the other hand, he wanted to appease his satellite tribes. Wang Zhong also explained his own ambition, which was to unify the Great Desolate Plains. Hearing Wang Zhong's idea, Huang Pu Ming frowned. Although they looked down on the desolate, they did not want the desolate to unify the Great Desolate Plains. Wang Zhong also knew what Huang Pu Ming was thinking. After thinking for a while, he said, "After we return, I hope you can tell His Majesty that the Stone Tribe is willing to form an alliance with the Great Celestial Empire." Alliance? Huang Pu Ming looked down on the Great Celestial Empire. It was just a nation that had been established for a few years. How could they form an alliance? Of course, he did not say anything on the surface, and just nodded in agreement. After staying for a few days, Huang Pu Ming left with his followers. "Blockhead, how do you think the Great Celestial Empire will deal with us?" the mute girl asked worriedly. There is a high chance that they will send troops to deal with us. Wang Zhong shook his head. Although he did not want to disturb the great celestial empire, as the ruler of a country, how could he allow a powerful empire to appear next to him? Although the great celestial empire is a giant to us, they will not send all their troops. We still have a chance of winning. Pass down the order. For safety reasons, let the soldiers come over. Speed up the production of iron ore. If the great celestial empire dares to invade, I will catch them off guard. Wang Zhong squinted his eyes. Although the great celestial empire was strong, this was not the era of firearms. They had traveled thousands of miles to enter the great desolate plains. So what if they had a large army? If he directly cut off the great celestial empire's food, wouldn't the army be lambs waiting to be slaughtered? After the order was passed down, the soldiers from the back kept coming. With so many soldiers coming, the other tribes would definitely know. For a moment, these tribes were stuck between the great celestial empire and the stone tribe. They were all trembling in fear, not knowing what to do. At the same time, in order to get more supplies, Wang Zhong contacted the leader of the horse tribe, Dama, and asked him to bring furs to the great celestial empire to trade and buy horses and ironware. In short, the more supplies the better, because the great celestial empire had not decided what to do with the stone tribe in a short time. War horses and ironware were continuously imported into the stone tribe. Although the great desolate plains were barren, furs were precious to the great celestial empire. So the great celestial empire was not in a hurry to get money. However, what made Wang Zhong sigh was that there should be a lot of horses in the great desolate plains. Why were there so few horses in the great desolate plains in this world? Instead, they had to buy from the great celestial empire. Later, when he bought books from the great celestial empire, he found out why. There were very few horses in the great desolate plains, but there were many horses in the central plains. On the map, there were many strong enemies around the great celestial empire. Moreover, the great celestial empire was not separated from these strong enemies, so the relationship between the great celestial empire and the surrounding countries was not good. In these years, the great celestial empire had become stronger under Li Qinglong's rule, and the surrounding countries had stabilized. However, once a war broke out in the north, the surrounding countries would definitely be restless. Knowing this, Wang Zhong was overjoyed. If the great celestial empire dared to attack, he would let them taste the power of the stone tribe. Chapter 94. After sending the envoy back, there was no reaction from the great celestial empire, which made the people of the Stone Dynasty feel relieved. However, Wang Zhong did not relax. In order to consolidate his power, he began to build a city in a tribe closest to the great celestial empire. In order not to arouse the suspicion of the great celestial empire, he named the city Trade City, which was to facilitate trade with the great celestial empire. The construction was in full swing. There were many mountains in the wilderness, and the city was built on the edge of the mountains. No bricks. No problem. He hired a lot of craftsmen from the great celestial empire to set up a brick factory. While baking bricks, he began to dig the foundation and build houses. However, time waits for no one. After 3 months, the spy sent by Wang Zhong to the border city of the great celestial empire reported that the great celestial empire had sent 50,000 troops, divided into 5 groups. Because the speed of information transmission in ancient times was too slow, by the time Wang Zhong knew about it, the 50,000 troops of the great celestial empire had already entered the largest city on the border, Dong City. After hearing the news, Wang Zhong frowned. There were originally more than 30,000 guards in Dong City, and with the addition of the surrounding satellite tribes, there were more than half of them. If they fought, they could only retreat and wait for the enemy troops to be far away from the base camp, and then attack their supplies. With a way to deal with it, Wang Zhong was in a good mood. However, in his heart, Wang Zhong was not willing to fight with the great celestial empire. He was not the kind of person with ambition, and his task was only to unify the great wilderness. Fighting with the great celestial empire was too risky, and it was unnecessary. What if he lost? After all, in this life, the conditions given to him were too poor. How could he fight with the great celestial empire, which was in its prime? After thinking about it, Wang Zhong did not hesitate to arrange for Day to bring the beauty and some local specialties of the tribe to Dong City. Day, you know that the great celestial empire has gathered nearly 100,000 troops in Dong City, and the surrounding affiliated tribes are also showing signs of movement. There is no doubt that once we make a move, the great celestial empire will definitely bring those affiliated tribes to attack us. We can't wait any longer. In the square, Wang Zhong pointed to the 50 carriages behind Day Hen's side. When you go there, you must remember to keep a low profile. Our strategy is not to fight, but to let them know that we don't want to fight, but we are not afraid of fighting those who offend the Stone Dynasty, no matter how far they are. Understood, Chief. I will tell the great Heavenly Dynasty's Emperor exactly what you told me. Well, Day, you've been with me the longest. Don't let me down. After that, he handed 3 brocade pouches to Day. The 3 brocade bags, 1 and 3 brocade. Here are 3 brocade pouches. There are 3 methods inside. If you can see that those people don't believe us, take out the first brocade pouch. If they are still not satisfied, take out the second brocade pouch. If they are still overbearing, take out the third brocade pouch. Wang Zhong solemnly reminded him. These 3 brocade bags are the most important things for your trip. Remember, you can't lose them no matter what. Day was slightly stunned. He carefully took the 3 brocade bags, but his eyes were full of doubts. What was in these 3 brocade bags? Why didn't they tell him in advance? Could opening the brocade bags really solve the crisis of the Stone Dynasty? Strange, it was really strange. But no matter how strange it was, he believed in Wang Zhong's ability. On the way, you are not allowed to open these things. You can only tell them when you arrive at the imperial court. Do you understand? Wang Zhong stared at Day and continued. This is an order. Day was shocked and quickly bowed his head. I understand. Well, let's go. Yes. Soon after, Day, White too, and their children reluctantly bid farewell. The mighty convoy finally set off. Looking at the backs of Day and the others, Wang Chao sighed. He had no choice but to do this. The troops of the great celestial empire were at the city gates. If they started a war, there would be no turning back. Therefore, he sent Day to the great celestial empire, hoping that the other party would see his sincerity. After Day passed, the convoy entered the cavern city and was warmly received by the city lord Song Shuhang. Although the 2 countries were on the verge of war, Song Shuhang had also received the news that they should avoid war as much as possible. However, if the Stone Dynasty was disobedient and took the initiative to attack other tribes, they would have to be taught a lesson. After learning that these gifts were given to His Majesty by Wang Zhong, Song Shuhang heaved a sigh of relief. He understood that Wang Zhong had deliberately sent soldiers to mediate. To be honest, as the city lord of a border city, Song Shuhang didn't want to fight. Therefore, he arranged for a guide to lead Day's convoy to the imperial capital. Before Day reached the imperial capital, Wang Zhong didn't have to worry about the other party launching an attack. Therefore, he started a vigorous trade. Although the wasteland was barren, there were still a lot of precious materials. Wood, stones, furs, and other things were continuously transported to the cavern city in exchange for horses, paper, and all kinds of precious metals. The more he came into contact with the great celestial empire, the more Wang Zhong felt that the strength of the great celestial empire wasn't something that his Stone Dynasty could compare with. Therefore, it was a wise choice to negotiate. However, he couldn't let the other party think that he was easy to bully. After all, he had also mingled in the imperial court and knew that there were all kinds of people in the imperial court. Some people were bellicose and would definitely advocate war. Some people were kind-hearted and would definitely advocate peace. There was also a group of people who were hesitant to shoot the rat for fear of breaking the vases. Therefore, in order to avoid war, besides showing the necessary sincerity, he had to make the other party hesitate to shoot the rat for fear of breaking the vases. Only then would he have room to maneuver. These 3 brocade pouches were the key to his victory. The reason why he didn't let Dae know in advance was that he didn't want him to be too surprised. Now Wang Zhong had also figured out the map of the wasteland. The original stone tribe was at the end of the wasteland. After entering the forest, there was a huge forest called the Heavenswell Forest. It meant that this was the Heavenswell Forest. With the current human technology, it was impossible to pass through the Heavenswell Forest. On both sides of the wasteland were continuous mountains. Beyond the mountains were other countries. Therefore, the entire wasteland was only bordered by the Great Celestial Empire. Strictly speaking, if there was no Great Celestial Empire, it would be easy for him to integrate the remaining 20 tribes. However, the reality was that there were no ifs in this world. The remaining tribes were all affiliated tribes of the Great Celestial Empire. Touching them meant becoming enemies of the Great Celestial Empire. Therefore, this was the difficult part. I hope Dae can succeed. He has a calm personality and does things carefully. He should be fine. Wang Zhong picked up the mutton milk wine and drank it in one gulp. More than a month later, Dae's convoy finally entered the imperial capital of the Great Celestial Empire. Only after entering did they realize how awesome the Great Celestial Empire was. The degree of prosperity compared to the wasteland was like heaven and earth. If it weren't for Chief Mu, I'm afraid I would have to fight for a few potatoes in the wasteland for the rest of my life. Dae thought to himself. Although the civil and military officials looked down on the desolate man, they were still envoys. The necessary etiquette was still necessary. Therefore, as soon as they arrived at the city gate, the officials of the Great Celestial Empire came to welcome them. A day later, Dae's convoy finally entered the city and came to the conference hall. Li Qinglong and the civil and military officials discuss matters here every day. Come in. Dae, the envoy of the Stone Tribe, come in. As the eunuch's voice fell, Dae knew that he was about to meet the emperor of the Great Celestial Empire, Li Qinglong. It was impossible to say that he was not nervous. However, Dae knew that he had a heavy burden on his shoulders. When he came here, although he was treated with courtesy, he could see the contempt and ridicule in these people's eyes and tone. For example, when he was called in just now, they only called him the Stone Tribe, not the Stone Dynasty, which meant that the Great Celestial Empire had not recognized their country. In the end, they were regarded as barbarians. He tightened his grip on the 3 brocade pouches in his bosom and thought to himself, Leader Mu too is a brilliant strategist. Ever since I met him, his plans and actions have never failed. This time, these 3 brocade pouches will definitely be useful. I can't disappoint the leader's expectations of me. Thinking of this, Dae slowly walked up the stairs. Chapter 95. Dae, the envoy of the Stone Dynasty, greets your majesty. Dae half knelt on the ground, using the etiquette of the Great Wilderness. Li Qinglong nodded slightly. No need to be so polite. Get up. Dae got up. Then Li Qinglong began to ask about Dae. From what he saw and heard along the way, he changed the topic and asked about the Stone Tribe. Your Majesty, from now on, the Stone Tribe is no longer a tribe, but a Stone Dynasty. This time, I came to present a gift to your Majesty. The leader specially asked me to bring a message that our 2 countries are important neighbors. Only by living in harmony and developing together can we benefit the people of both countries. At the same time, he also said that he hopes to form an alliance with your country. Ha ha ha. As soon as Dae finished speaking, a military official stood up and said, a small country that has only been established for a few years dares to talk about forming an alliance with us. I'm afraid it will be ridiculed. Dae was furious to be humiliated in public. However, he could only swallow his anger. Taking a deep breath, Dae bowed his head respectfully. Your Majesty, I'll take the token given to me by the leader first. As he spoke, he took out the first brocade pouch, opened it, and took a look. His heart skipped a beat. I see, Dae thought to himself. His expression changed and he said, Sir, you're right. The Stone Dynasty is indeed a small country, but it's not a small country that can be bullied by others. The leader told me that if we can form an alliance and open up trade, he promises to double our economy within 5 years. Nonsense. What a load of nonsense. At this time, the imperial court was full of angry voices. Day suddenly became anxious. The first brocade pouch said, forming an alliance and opening up trade, guaranteeing to double the economy of the two countries within 5 years. He subconsciously thought that it was a good thing when he saw it, so he excitedly said it. Who knew that it would have the opposite effect? What should he do? However, what Day didn't notice was that Li Qinglong, who was sitting on the dragon throne, didn't say anything. Sir Envoy, our country has been established for so many years, and our economy hasn't changed all year round. You actually said that you can double our economy in 5 years? Is your leader a fool? Yes, he must be a fool. He must be. The people around him said one after another. Day was anxious and quickly took out the second brocade pouch. After reading it, his expression changed. Not only did the leader promise to double everyone's economy, but if your country is attacked by other countries, our Stone Dynasty is willing to send troops to help. Haha, childish. Another general sneered. That's right, our great celestial empire has a strong army. Why would we need help? Dave gritted his teeth and opened the third brocade bag. What he saw stunned him. He hesitated and looked at Li Qinglong, who was sitting in his seat. I see that you've already opened the third brocade pouch. What does it say? Li Qinglong asked with a faint smile. He said the Great Wilderness is very big, and that's all. The Grand Wilderness is huge. Li Qinglong pondered for a moment before suddenly smiling. The surrounding people did not know why Li Qinglong was laughing. Only a few smart officials had a slight change in expression after hearing this. Does this guy think that he can contend with our great celestial empire just because the Great Wilderness is so big? A military official shouted angrily. Li Qinglong waved his hand and said, Don't be angry. He's telling the truth. Li Qinglong was not a reckless person. After saying that, he closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking about the words on the 3 brocade pouches. The first 2 were Wang Zhong's temptation. They promised him both financially and militarily. He promised to double the economy and guarantee the military alliance. But to be honest, he did not believe that Wang Zhong had the ability. But the last sentence was actually a threat. The Great Wilderness was indeed huge. Because of this, without economic benefits, the Great Celestial Empire had never thought of attacking the Great Wilderness. Now that the Stone Dynasty had appeared, if they attacked the Stone Dynasty, they would at most retreat. But in that case, they could not send their troops deep into the Great Wilderness. Over time, it would be a war of attrition. For the Great Celestial Empire, which was surrounded by strong enemies, this was very disadvantageous. Your Majesty, the leader really has no intention of starting a war. If you don't believe me, give us 5 years, and the leader will fulfill his promise, Day said solemnly. In fact, at this point, Li Qinglong had already decided that this leader called Blockhead was very interesting. At the same time, he also felt that it was difficult to deal with such a smart person and defeat him. Hence, deep in his heart, he felt that he could not be enemies with Wang Zhong. He had been in this position for so long and managed the country so well because of his ability to judge people. Hence, he immediately decided to negotiate. Wang Zhong sat in his meeting hall and looked at the huge map, guessing what the Great Celestial Empire would do. The reason why he let Day open the bag in the court was because he was worried that Day would have doubts about the contents of the bag. At that time, his tone would be different from a confident one. Speaking in a suspicious tone would make people question, but speaking in a confident tone was different. Sometimes speaking was also an art. When 2 different people said the same thing, the effect would be different. This time, he let Day negotiate. Although he hoped for peace, it was not that he did not prepare for war. The troops and food had all been transported over, and were scattered in various villages. These villages were connected to each other, and formed an absolute defense. If one place was attacked, the other villages would immediately respond. It was perfect. Just as he was thinking, Mute Girl walked in with a travel-worn cavalry. Blockhead, Day's guard is here. Mute Girl hurriedly shouted. This person went to the Great Celestial Empire with Day. At that time, Wang Zhong said that they should send someone back to report whether the news was good or bad. What do you mean? Wang Zhong looked at him and asked. Leader, the negotiation went very well. His Majesty is willing to discuss important matters with you. 1 month later, we will meet in Dong City. This person might have been exhausted because he came back day and night. So, as soon as he finished speaking, his head tilted and he fainted. Take him away and have a good rest. Wang Zhong waved his hand. His heart was quite restless. The crisis was finally over. But he could not slack off. The great celestial empire was governed so well. So Wang Zhong concluded that the current emperor was also a smart person. He could not guarantee that the other party was not playing hard to get. So he still had to see the next development. Time, what I need now is time. As long as you give me time, the Stone Empire will stand tall. A few days later, as expected, Wang Zhong received news that the surrounding tribes of the Great Celestial Empire had all retreated. At the same time, the envoy of the Great Celestial Empire came again to discuss the matter of meeting with Li Qinglong in Dong City. The time was agreed to be 1 month later. Taking advantage of this time, Wang Zhong stepped up the construction of the city, but he found that as his territory increased, the originally rich Stone Empire gradually could not make ends meet. Fortunately, the desolate people did not pay for their work and only gave them food. Otherwise, the financial situation would have collapsed long ago. Money, he still needed a lot of money. Wang Zhong frowned and felt a lot of pressure. How can I get money? Wang Zhong thought. Finally, he thought of expanding trade. If he wanted to expand trade, he must have his own advantageous industries. What were the advantageous industries in the great wilderness, which could make a lot of money? Chapter 96. There were many choices in front of Wang Zhong. Expanding trade was nothing more than making money. He now had a lot of resources and a large population. The key was that labor costs were not high, so he could develop many industries. For example, manufacturing. Of course, their social system was too primitive, even worse than the Great Celestial Empire. So manufacturing was difficult. What Wang Zhong cared about now was food. A few days ago, when he went to the Great Celestial Empire, he found that the Great Celestial Empire was strong, and the people were rich. So he planned to grow food on a large scale, and send all kinds of cattle, sheep, and pigs to the Great Celestial Empire for trade. Secondly, the people of the Great Celestial Empire liked to drink tea, so he also planned to import tea. The land in the wilderness was fertile and very suitable for growing tea. Finally, he also looked at the map. East of Cavern City, there was a forest. This forest was at the edge, so the forest was not very dense. After passing through it, one could reach the Armani United States in the west. This country was a union of dozens of countries under the direct leadership of a large country. In fact, it was a bit like the Great Celestial Empire was the main country, and the surrounding countries were subordinate tribes. He could now arrange for people to pass through the forest and reach the distant and mysterious Armani United States to trade. As long as he opened up his advantages, sooner or later he would make a lot of money. So he began to act. First, he arranged for a convoy to carry some gifts and goods, and put on the documents of the Stone Dynasty to the Armani United States. On one hand, he wanted to discuss trade matters, and on the other hand, his country needed to be recognized by them. In the territory, tea had already been introduced. He also spent a lot of money to hire tea masters to grow it, and the desolate people learned from them. In terms of cattle, sheep, and pigs, he also set up a total of 10 farms, and encouraged the people to raise them. The entire Stone Dynasty was producing in an orderly manner, which made Wang Zhong very happy. A month later, he finally brought a group of people to Dong City. When he went, he also thought about whether the other side would launch a surprise attack and kill him. But it was not likely. After all, the two countries were not at war. If the Great Celestial Empire attacked, who would dare to deal with them in the future? So Wang Zhong was not worried. After Wang Zhong arrived, he was invited to the meeting hall of the City Lord Mansion. When he arrived, the Great Celestial Emperor Li Qinglong was already waiting for him. When the two met, They were both shocked by each other's youthful appearance. Li Qinglong was already in charge of the Great Celestial Empire at a young age, and Wang Zhong was even younger, but he developed from a tribe to the Stone Dynasty. The two of them seemed to hit it off immediately. Unfortunately, they were the rulers of two countries, and this trip was also to discuss important matters. Although the Great Celestial Empire was powerful, Wang Zhong was not at a disadvantage. He and Li Qinglong's men sat at a long table, facing each other. I've long heard that the current emperor of the Great Celestial Dynasty is a dragon among men. Seeing you today, you're indeed awe-inspiring. Wang Zhong cupped his hands, his attitude neither servile nor overbearing. Li Qinglong nodded slightly and said with a smile, I'm also very surprised that Chief Wood is so young. What especially surprised me is that you actually said that you would double the economy of the Great Celestial Empire within 5 years. Haha, it might not even take 5 years. Can I have a listen? First of all, we have to develop overseas trade and open up to the outside world. Wang Zhong began to explain. In fact, he had other ways. For example, he could use the basic technology of the Great Celestial Empire to develop manufacturing, science, and machinery. But then he thought that the stronger the Great Celestial Empire was, the harder it would be for him to develop. So he chose overseas trade. Wang Zhong said a lot at once. In addition to overseas trade, he also suggested that Li Qinglong abolish the silver standard and adopt paper currency as legal tender. Abolishing the silver standard had a huge financial significance, and it could be said to be an important symbol of the country's modernization. Because a country using the silver standard was limited by the output of silver. That was to say, no matter how rich a country was, no matter how many things it produced, it still had no money if it did not have silver to pay for it. But it was different if it adopted paper currency. That was how the European countries no longer had to worry about money. After that, the European countries discovered a large number of silver mines in America. So they sailed to Huaxia and made a lot of money. Li Qinglong was a smart man. Not only was he proficient in poetry, but he also had an excellent understanding of mathematics. So when he heard Wang Zhong's suggestion, he was stunned. In these years, his Great Celestial Empire was indeed rich and powerful, but it was limited by the lack of silver mines. So he could only buy silver mines from overseas. Sometimes, what made him depressed was that the goods produced in his country had to be sold to other countries in exchange for silver. It felt as if the currency did not belong to him. More importantly, he also asked those countries to send silver. Otherwise, if the imperial court did not have any silver, they could not even buy their own country's goods, let alone pay the soldiers. But after listening to Wang Zhong's suggestion, he was enlightened. Abolish the silver standard, and the country would only recognize the paper currency issued by them. This way, he would not have to worry about not having enough silver. Of course, Wang Zhong also reminded him that the currency could not be distributed indiscriminately, otherwise, it would cause inflation, and it would be bad. This conversation was the most important conversation in Li Qinglong's life. And now, Li Qinglong was sure that Woodhead had no intention of being his enemy, or he would not have made such an important suggestion. Woodhead, from today onwards, I, the Blue Dragon Emperor, officially recognize your Stone Dynasty, Li Qinglong shouted. In his heart, Li Qinglong did not want to have a Stone Dynasty by his side, but the overall situation was set. Since Stone Dynasty had no intention of being his enemy, he would do them a favor. After Wang Zhong returned, in the same year, Li Qinglong sent another envoy to propose a marriage alliance. He would send his sister, the current little princess, Princess Li Xiener, to marry Woodhead. Wang Zhong reluctantly agreed to the marriage for the sake of the overall situation. But later, Wang Zhong learned that Li Xiener was known as the most beautiful woman in the Great Celestial Empire. Countless young talents in the Great Celestial Empire fought over Li Xiener. After learning that Li Xiener was going to marry a barbarian leader, these people all beat their chests and stamped their feet, lamenting the injustice of the world. Many infatuated people even committed suicide on the spot after hearing this. Of course, Wang Zhong did not know about this. Even if he knew, it was none of his business. A month later, the little princess of the great celestial empire, Li Xianer, sat in a carriage and finally arrived at the closest city to Dong City, Trade City. That's right. Wang Zhong had named this city the Trade City. This was a very meaningful name. This city was the closest to Dong City. If one went up through the Heavenly Wall Forest, they would reach the Armani United States, so it was of great geographical significance. When he saw Li Xianer, Wang Zhong was slightly surprised. He was not a womanizer, which could be seen from the fact that he only had one wife, mute girl, since the founding of the country. However, after seeing Li Xianer, he felt that there was such a beautiful woman in this world. No wonder she was known as the most beautiful woman in the great celestial empire. You must have worked hard. Wang Zhong escorted Li Xianer out of the carriage and nodded slightly. Li Xianer slightly bowed as a salute, but her face showed sadness and unhappiness. She doesn't want to marry me? Wang Zhong saw it. Chapter 97. When Wang Zhong saw Li Xianer for the first time, he could tell that she didn't like him. Thinking about it, although society always said that everyone was equal and shouldn't discriminate against others, but as the saying goes, the more lacking something, the louder the slogan would be. Although many people said that everyone was equal, there were still some discriminations in their hearts that couldn't be changed. Li Xianer was like this. She had received a good education since young, so she naturally felt that the desolate were barbaric and didn't like cleanliness. But this was a marriage of political interest. Even a princess couldn't resist her fate. Wang Zhong knew that Li Xianer didn't like him, so after he brought her back, he arranged for her to live alone in a courtyard. Blockhead, is it appropriate for you to let Li Xianer live alone? Late at night, the mute girl asked on the bed. Why are you suddenly asking this? I just thought that Li Xianer, as a princess, suddenly came to such an unfamiliar place. Although the conditions you gave her are very good, it still doesn't make sense. I'll be bold to say that if you have time, please visit her. Although the mute girl was a little jealous, she was still a person who lived a hard life, and her heart was incomparably pure and kind. Wang Zhong pondered for a moment and said, I'll find a chance to visit her. 2 days later, Wang Zhong brought some silk and satin that he bought in the Great Tian Dynasty and went to Li Xianer's residence. Although Li Xianer's residence was a separate courtyard, it was actually in Wang Zhong's bedroom in the Trade City, so it wasn't far. As soon as he entered, he heard Li Xianer playing a piece of music. Wang Zhong stopped at the door. This piece of music was very pleasant to the ears. He secretly sighed in his heart. As expected of the number one talented girl of the Great Tian Dynasty, it would be difficult to find another person who could play this music so well. Your Majesty, since you're already here, why don't you come in? After the music finished, Li Xianer's gentle voice came. I was also worried that I would disturb your highness. Wang Zhong generously entered the room, and the servants behind him carried in the gifts one by one. I was worried that you wouldn't be happy here, so I specially ordered people to buy many gifts from your hometown. I'm a rough person and didn't know what you liked, so I bought some. Thank you, your Majesty. Li Xianer bowed. Wang Zhong nodded slightly and ordered someone to close the door. Only the two of them were left in the room. Has your highness been living well recently? Very good. Although Li Xianer said those words, there was no change in her expression. She was as cold as a passerby. Wang Zhong smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he walked to the side of the piece of music and began to play it. When a person sinks to the bottom of the sea, when a ship becomes a mystery, you don't know why he left. Li Xianer was stunned when she heard the crisp sound of music. This beautiful music, these lyrics, why were they so pleasant to listen to? Why? The song quickly came to an end. When Wang Zhong finished singing the last line, Li Xianer was still immersed in the beautiful music. Wang Zhong heaved a sigh of relief and said, I haven't played for a long time. I'm a little rusty. Your Majesty, I didn't expect you to know how to play music. Li Xianer's eyes were filled with surprise. Yes, I have many interests. I like to study them all. Wang Zhong looked up and glanced at Li Xianer. He also learned this song in the Great Dragon Dynasty. At that time, He was old and often listened to it in his later years. Over time he learned it. As for the lyrics, of course, they came from a distant world. Your song is very nice. What's the name of it? Lee Siener's eyes were filled with curiosity. After all, she was still young. She was only 21 years old. She thought that she would marry a rough man in this life. She didn't expect that he would have the same interests as her. The name of this song is Farewell. Farewell? Lee Siena nodded slightly. It's very nice. Do you want to learn? Yes. Wang Zhong nodded. This was the effect he wanted. Although he didn't desire her body, it was too easy to deal with a young girl like her. Bring me a brush and ink. I'll teach you. You can write. Lee Siener was surprised again. Then, Lee Siener began to grind the ink, and Wang Zhong began to write the lyrics. While Wang Zhong was writing, Lee Siener's beautiful eyes widened. These bold and powerful words, these flamboyant strokes, were like the masterpiece of a master calligrapher. After writing, Wang Zhong frowned slightly. I haven't written for many years. My handwriting is a little rusty. Excuse me. No, it's not funny, Lee Siener said. In fact, your handwriting is very nice. Is that so? No matter how nice it is, it's a pity that no one appreciates it. Lee Siener was puzzled. Why? There aren't many literate people around me. Your Highness, are you willing to stay by my side and assist me? Lee Siener was taken aback, and a blush appeared on her fair face. This was a blatant and indirect confession. This, Wang Zhong didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he changed the topic. If you're interested, follow me. There aren't many literate people around me. There's a lot of work to be done. Yes, Your Majesty. Later, the Armani United Nations also sent news. They readily recognized the status of the Stone Dynasty. Wang Zhong didn't find this strange. Their Stone Dynasty was only bordered by the Great Celestial Empire. If they were to establish a country, there would be a conflict between them and the Great Celestial Empire. Next, Wang Zhong continued to deal with the affairs of the court with the mute girl and Lee Siener. These two women were very capable and had become very good helpers for him. The mute girl was responsible for dealing with the affairs of the wilderness. She knew the wilderness very well, so it was easy for her to deal with it. With the help of Lee Siener, she even learned how to read. Lee Siener was responsible for diplomatic affairs with the Great Celestial Empire. With her help, the trade volume between the Great Celestial Empire and the Stone Dynasty rose steadily. Thanks to this, the Great Celestial Empire and the Stone Dynasty achieved a great economic leap 3 years later. This was especially true for the Great Celestial Empire. Under Wang Zhong's suggestion, the Great Celestial Empire began to print banknotes in the first year. In order to prevent counterfeiting, the paper used a special pattern. In the second year, the banknotes began to be exchanged for silver. In order to not cause chaos, the Great Celestial Empire's policy was to use both banknotes and silver. In the third year, the Great Celestial Empire established a bank. Since then, the economy rose steadily, causing the neighboring countries to follow suit. The Stone Dynasty benefited from its good relationship with the emperor, so it also benefited greatly. Later on, the nearby tribes that had not been conquered fled to the Stone Dynasty because of the many desolate slaves and servants. These tribes existed in name only. At this point, Wang Zhong knew that his mission to unify the wilderness had been completed. The only thing he could do now was to maintain the current situation. During this time, Lee Siener also completed her grand wedding with Wang Zhong. This wasn't Wang Zhong's idea, but Lee Siener's own request. After following Wang Zhong for so long, Lee Siener no longer had the preconceived notion that Wang Zhong was a barbarian. In Lee Siener's impression, although Wang Zhong was a barbarian, he was proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy and painting, especially in music. He was always able to compose a unique and beautiful song that she had never heard before. He was simply more amazing than all the scholars she had seen before. Wang Zhong even composed a song for the Stone Dynasty called the Great Wilderness March. Rise up, those who do not wish to be desolate slaves. This song was impassioned and moved people's hearts. Many people immediately saluted when they heard this march. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was 38 years old. Chapter 98. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was 38 years old. Stone Dynasty and the Great Celestial Dynasty had both achieved great economic and military growth. Under Wang Zhong's design, he designed guns again. Now he had a team of 30,000 gunmen under his command. All the major cities in the country were equipped with artillery legions of various sizes. However, these armies were kept secret by him. On the surface, he still had a small army of tens of thousands of people. However, if these people were included, a small army of tens of thousands of people could fight against hundreds of thousands of people. This was the gap brought about by equipment. On the personal side, the mute girl's two sons, Big Stone and Little Stone, were already in their teens. Under Wang Zhong's strict education, Big Stone and Little Stone made great achievements. However, Wang Zhong still didn't relax his education. Instead, he let them lead the army to the Heavenly Wall Forest and the Stony Mountain Range to cultivate themselves. Li Xianer also worked hard and gave birth to a son and a daughter. The daughter was as beautiful as her, and the son was as strong as Wang Zhong. At 38 years old, Stone Dynasty's development reached its peak. Now the country was peaceful, and the people lived and worked in peace. At night, Wang Zhong, the mute girl, and Li Xianer lived together. Now that the mute girl and Li Xianer had a good relationship, naturally, at their request, Wang Zhong lived with them. To Wang Zhong's surprise, the three of them were quite harmonious. Your Majesty, my brother took in a concubine a while ago. If you want sister mute girl and I won't be angry. After the three of them were done, Li Xianer said gently. The mute girl nodded slightly. The other monarchs have 3,000 concubines. Your Majesty, if you don't take in concubines, Sister Xian, and I will be gossiped about. Wang Zhong smiled bitterly. These days, the two girls had been persuading him to take in concubines, but he was too busy to deal with it. He didn't expect that they would still talk about it when he was asleep. Let's talk about it later, Wang Zhong said helplessly. Saying so, Wang Zhong sighed. Now that the great wilderness was united, the mission of this life was almost complete, right? What he didn't expect was that the next morning, Dai came to report. Prince Jean Ligua of one of the subordinate countries of the Armani Union entered the Sky Wall Forest and killed Big Rock. What? Big Stone is dead. Hearing this, Wang Zhong was furious. This was the first time his son had been killed. Where is Prince Jean Ligua? Wang Zhong asked. They've already escaped. Dai half knelt on the ground, thought for a while, and continued. There are rumors that Crown Prince Dashi fell in love with the princess of Ruifa Kingdom. Coincidentally, there was a war between Jean Ligua and Ruifa Kingdom. Dashi led his troops to rescue the princess of Ruifa Kingdom, which caused a dispute. Passed down the order, prepare for war and wipe out Jean Ligua. In the past, the United States was blocked by the Heavenly Wall Forest, so they could not pass through. However, after these years of pioneering operations, the wild beasts in the Sky Wall Forest had been scared witless by the flintlocks. Now they were able to march. Unfortunately, Jean Ligua did not care. For them, with the Sky Wall Forest as a natural barrier, they were not afraid of the Stone Dynasty. What they did not expect was that in just 2 months, the Stone Dynasty used cannons to blast open the gates of Jean Ligua. In just one day, the king of Jean Ligua and the prince who killed Big Stone were brought in front of Wang Zhong. The father and son kneeled on the ground, trembling, because in front of them was the corpse of Big Stone and the princess of Ruifa Kingdom. Stone King, don't kill me. This has nothing to do with me. Prince Jean Ligua was so scared that he peed his pants. Wang Zhong squinted his eyes. I thought you were a man, but I didn't expect you to be such a coward. My son died in your hands, what a shame. Men. Here. A general walked over. Hang this father and son. In the future, there will be no more Jean Ligua in this world. My Stone Dynasty will establish a country here. Yes. As Stone Dynasty took over Jean Ligua, the other countries became vigilant. Unfortunately, they also knew how powerful Stone Dynasty was, so none of them dared to do anything. A year later, because of the years of war in this region, a plague occurred. For a time, this terrifying plague disaster swept across the entire continent. During this period of time, neither Wang Zhong nor his family dared to step out of the gates. According to the reports from his subordinates, the number of people who had died due to the plague had already piled up into a small mountain on the streets. Not even a shadow could be seen in the originally bustling trade city. Not only them, but the other countries also suffered heavy casualties. Although Wang Zhong had taken countermeasures at the beginning, this time the disease was still beyond his expectations. It was not until winter that the disease gradually subsided. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was already 46 years old. Under Wang Zhong's rule, he built schools in every city and implemented a 3-year compulsory education. The next successor he appointed was Little Stone. Little Stone was no longer called Little Stone, but Shi Xiaoqiang. This also meant that the surname of Stone dynasty would be Shi. As for Li Xianer's son Shi Gandang, he was the prime minister. This was a new position Wang Zhong established. In his dynasty, Shi Xiaoqiang was the president, and Shi Gandang was the prime minister. The two of them worked together to form a united front. This was also Wang Zhong's way of preventing the two brothers from turning against each other for benefits. Wang Zhong was 46 years old, and the mute girl was 50 years old. She used to be a gentle beauty, but now her hair was white and her skin was sagging. She looked like a woman in her 70s or 80s. This year, the mute girl became demented. She seemed to have returned to the past, to the days in the great wilderness. Blockhead, Big Bird is very powerful. If we see him in the future, we should stay away from him. The mute girl held a potato in her hand, hunched her back, and trembled as she came to Wang Zhong's side. That's right, the mute girl's back was already hunched. Wang Zhong guessed that this was because the mute girl worked too much when she was young, so her back was already hunched in her old age. Mute girl, I know. You're tired from working today. Lie down for a while. Seeing the mute girl like this, Wang Zhong sighed. Look at this. The mute girl took out the potato like it was a treasure. My wet nurse gave it to me. At this moment, Wang Zhong remembered his childhood in the great wilderness, where he didn't have enough food to eat or warm clothes to wear. At that time, even a simple potato was the most precious thing to them. And the mute girl at that time would always secretly hide potatoes and share them with him. Mute girl, this is what the maid gave you. Eat it. After becoming demented, the mute girl couldn't eat anything else. Potatoes were the only thing she liked. Maid? The mute girl was stunned. She seemed to remember something and suddenly cried. Big Stone is dead. Our son is dead. Chapter 99. Looking at the mute girl, Wang Zhong didn't know what to say. He gently hugged her and comforted her. Sleep, sleep. The mute girl really fell asleep. She didn't wake up from her slumber. Half an hour later, Wang Zhong also found that the mute girl was no longer breathing. He didn't panic and quietly put her on the bed. The mute girl was as quiet as a child. Looking at her old face, Wang Zhong felt a bit regretful. Little Stone was always outside and didn't have time to see his mother. Go in peace, Wang Zhong whispered and went out to call for the maids guarding the door. After knowing that the mute girl was dead, the maids all cried. Because the mute girl was usually very good to them, they all cried when such a good master died. After the mute girl died, Wang Zhong held a funeral for her. The great celestial dynasty's Li Qinglong sent a diplomatic group to attend the funeral. After the mute girl's death, Li Xianer also smiled less. Wang Zhong also didn't go to the concubines. In any case, the country was peaceful, so he could take a lot of time to accompany Li Xianer. Because of Wang Zhong's company, Li Xianer's condition improved a lot. However, the good times passed quickly. Less than 2 years after the mute girl's death, Wang Zhong also felt that his body was becoming weaker and weaker. One time, when he was dealing with state affairs, he suddenly felt that he couldn't breathe. The king of the Stone Kingdom was seriously ill. When the news spread, not only the Stone Dynasty, but also the Great Celestial Dynasty and the surrounding countries were shocked. It was because the Stone Dynasty was too important right now. In terms of economy, the Stone Dynasty and the Great Celestial Dynasty were on par. In terms of military power, the Stone Dynasty was the overlord. However, in these past few years, the dynasty didn't want to expand, so it maintained this situation. Once the monarch of such a powerful country died, the neighboring countries would be nervous. Li Xianer suddenly became anxious. After helping Wang Zhong back to his room, Li Xianer immediately issued an order to find a famous doctor in the world. Anyone who could cure Wang Zhong's illness would be rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold. For a time, countless famous doctors from various countries came from afar to treat Wang Zhong. However, Wang Zhong knew a little about it. Although his medical skills were not up to standard, he knew that this was not an illness but old age. As he got older, his body's various functions were failing. The fact that he was able to live to the age of 50 was actually due to good maintenance. Your Majesty, don't worry. I will cure your illness. My elder brother has sent a messenger over. The 10 best imperial physicians of the Great Celestial Empire have rushed over overnight. They will definitely cure you. They definitely will. Deep into the night, Li Xianer knelt by the bed and cried. At the door, little Shirtu, Shirgandang, and Li Xianer's daughter, Shirpiapiao, were all kneeling on the ground and crying. Little Stone, Wang Zhong said weakly. Father. Little Shirtu, who was already called Shir Xiaoqiang, hadn't heard anyone call him by his pet name in a long time. He lowered his head and looked at the man on the sickbed, who had built a powerful country in the wasteland. You and Shirgandang, you two brothers have to be good in the future. Don't lose the things I taught you. Father, please don't worry. I will treat the people like my own children. Shir Xiaoqiang said. Shirgandang quietly wiped his tears. I will do my best to assist brother Xiaoqiang. Very good, very good. Remember, knowledge changes power. You have to develop the manufacturing industry. Money is not the most important thing. But without technology, no matter how much money there is, it will only be a financial bubble. Technology is the primary productive force. Cough, cough, cough. As Wang Zhong spoke, he coughed violently. Shirpiapiao. Shirpiapiao and Li Xianer looked alike. They were both very quick-witted. Her husband was the son of a general of the Stone Empire. They had already given birth to a pair of children and lived a good life. At this moment, when she heard Wang Zhong calling her, she choked and said, Your son is here. Although you are a woman, I have taught you since you were young that women are not weaker than men. You have done well. At such a young age, you are already our country's finance minister. But this is not enough. I hope you and your two brothers will make more laws to protect the interests of women. Allow women to work and protect their rights. I can't do these things in time, so I will leave it to you. Your son understands. You may leave. His children walked out. Then, Wang Zhong looked at his concubines. In this life, he married 13 beautiful concubines. Some were chosen for him by the mute girl and Li Xianer. Some were princesses of other countries who came to marry him. Wang Zhong didn't like these women, but more like family. 1, 2, 3. Wang Zhong counted one by one. Finally, he counted 12. That's right. There was a concubine named Xiaoya who died during the epidemic. Wang Zhong actually quite liked that concubine. It wasn't that she was good, but she was considerate. Moreover, Xiaoya had a good relationship with the mute girl and Li Xianer. It was a pity that she died early. All of you be obedient after this king dies, do you understand? If you don't listen, no one will spoil you. Wang Zhong sighed. What will we know? Your Majesty, you will be fine. You will be fine. The group of concubines also cried. Then, Wang Zhong reminded them one by one. After that, Wang Zhong waved his hand and let them leave. Late at night, the room was finally empty. Only he and Li Xianer were left sleeping together. Your Majesty, I will blow out the light. Go to bed early. Looking at the people beside him, Wang Zhong sighed in his heart. The number one beauty of the Great Celestial Empire had become a white-haired old woman. But he had to admit that chatting with Li Xianer really made him happy. Perhaps this was called a bosom friend. In this life, only the mute girl Li Xianer and that Xiaoya could be considered as bosom friends. Thinking of this, Wang Zhong felt that the person he was most worried about in this life was Li Xianer. Li Xianer had been spoiled since young. Previously, when the mute girl died, She was almost depressed. Fortunately, he was always by her side and helped her through that. This time, if he left first, he was afraid. Therefore, Wang Zhong reminded her, Li Xianer, if I leave, there will be no one to play music with you. Don't be sad. Li Xianer had been holding it in for a long time. Hearing this, she immediately sobbed. Your Majesty, don't say this. I am afraid. I am afraid that you will leave. Silly girl. Whoa. Just think of it as when we first met. I remember that when you first met me, you still had a straight face. Wang Zhong sighed. Whoa. At that time, I thought that my future husband was dirty and bad. I was even angry at my brother for pushing me into the fire pit. At that time, I kept warning myself to try to like you. But in the end, you were more outstanding than I thought. You are the best person I have ever met in my life. Is that so? Yes. Do you still remember the song you played for the first time? Goodbye Forever. At that time, I felt that you were really amazing. In this life, I have always admired my brother Li Qinglong the most. But now I admire you the most. So a person as amazing as you will not be so short-lived. Unfortunately, this is fate. I can feel that I am not very good. Wang Zhong sighed. Your Majesty, you are not allowed to say that. That night, the two chatted for a long time. Wang Zhong couldn't help but reminisce about the past as he fell into a deep sleep. Unfortunately, after that day, Wang Zhong was too sick to get out of bed. For no reason, his temper became irritable. This feeling was also very strange to him. It was as if everything was not going well. Only when Li Xianer played next to him, did he gradually get better. After that, the imperial doctors from the Great Celestial Empire diagnosed him. Unfortunately, as before, Wang Zhong's body was very difficult to treat. Wang Zhong knew that he was almost done, so he simply stopped seeing the doctors and stayed in his palace all day. Xianer, play a song for this king. That day the sun was very bright. As usual, Li Xianer was playing the song Goodbye Forever. After the song, Li Xianer was a little surprised, because in the past, after playing, Wang Zhong would gently clap a few times, and then give her a few comments. But this time he did not. An ominous premonition arose. Li Xianer trembled as she turned her head to look, only to see that Wang Zhong's head was tilted to the side, and he was no longer breathing. The stone monarch was gone. Li Xianer cried out and threw herself at the bedside, crying out in pain. Your Majesty, you still want to teach me to play songs. You promised me to live well. Why? You're gone. What am I supposed to do? Unfortunately, Wang Zhong could not respond to her. The news of the stone monarch's death shook the entire country. Fortunately, before Wang Zhong left, he arranged everything. Shi Xiaoqiang smoothly ascended the throne, and Shi Gondang became the prime minister of the Stone dynasty. As for Li Xianer, she lived in the depths of the palace from then on, playing music with Wang Zhong and the other concubines. I'm back. Wang Zhong looked at the white ceiling in front of him and sighed softly. Before he died, he listened to the song played by Li Xianer. The beautiful music calmed his complicated emotions. Unfortunately, suddenly, without any warning, he felt a little stuffy in his chest, and then in a daze, he lost all consciousness. Kacha. The door opened. Hello, is this where the prisoner Wang Zhong lives? Chapter 100. Hello, is this where the prisoner Wang Zhong lives? The voice was very soft. Wang Zhong subconsciously looked over. The person who walked in was actually a young girl. She was wearing a white nurse's uniform and a small hat. Her eyes were big. With this look, Wang Zhong couldn't help but be a little absent-minded, because he found that this girl was quite similar to someone. The mute girl. Yes, she was quite similar to the mute girl, but her figure was thinner than the mute girl. It's me, Wang Zhong responded. He guessed the origin of this girl. Not long ago, the nurse who took care of him might have found her true love, so she changed her job. Previously, she mentioned that it might be the last few days to take care of him. Now there was a newcomer. However, this newbie was a little too new. Although this nurse looked similar to the mute girl, Wang Zhong was still a little unhappy. She was too young. Such a young person, logically speaking, Didn't know how to take care of people. Could it be that the federal government is short on funds, so they found a temporary worker? Wang Zhong thought. Hello, my name is Shen Shuangshuang. You can call me Xiao Shuang in the future. Shen Shuangshuang curiously looked at Wang Zhong. Well, Qinli doesn't come to work. Yes, I'm new. Please take care of me in the future. Aren't you afraid of me? Wang Zhong couldn't help but ask. Shen Shuangshuang thought, you're paralyzed. What am I afraid of? But it wasn't good to say this, so she didn't say it. Seeing Shen Shuangshuang like this, Wang Zhong was quite pleased. The previous nurse was too timid, but then again, she was quite good at taking care of people. He just didn't know how Shen Shuangshuang was like. Thinking of this, Wang Zhong still hoped that a man could come to take care of him. That way it would be better and less awkward. Actually, you have nothing to be afraid of, Shen Shuangshuang said while fiddling with the equipment on the trolley. Oh. Wang Zhong was a little interested. You are a good person, Shen Shuangshuang said. Why do you say that? Because the people you killed were all bad people. Shen Shuangshuang wrung a towel and wiped Wang Zhong's face as she continued. Those people deserve to die. They have harmed so many people. In fact, you are a hero. To be honest, at first, Wang Zhong was worried that Shen Shuangshuang was too young and did not know how to take care of others. But later, he found that Shen Shuangshuang was quite capable. Actually, you're still young. You don't have to come in and take care of me. After washing his face, Wang Zhong glanced at Shen Shuangshuang's pretty place and sighed in his heart. It wasn't big and her skin was delicate. It seemed that she wasn't married yet. It's okay. It's just work. Shen Shuangshuang was embarrassed. Then, she began to clean up Wang Zhong. But what made Wang Zhong embarrassed was that Shen Shuangshuang kept staring at him. She looked like a small fan who saw a big star. It seems that I should let my body recover as soon as possible and find a way to leave here. Wang Zhong thought to himself. Now that one of his arms and legs had recovered, he could consider leaving after playing the game a few more times. His world was very big. After leaving, with his previous methods, it would be difficult for the federal police to find him. Then they began to eat. Shen Shuangshuang was quite talkative. While eating, she talked about the outside world. From the conversation, Wang Zhong also knew that Shen Shuangshuang seemed to be only 27 years old. She was really young. But why would she come in and take care of him? So strange. But Wang Zhong believed that this girl would not harm him. This was because it was very easy for anyone to deal with him. Although the federal government was powerful and had a standardized system, it was very easy for the people below to play tricks. He had been here for so long, and no one had found trouble with him. This meant that his previous enemies had been dealt with. After eating, Shen Shuangshuang cleaned up the dishes and said, Do you want to go out and take a look? I'm so excited. I heard that this is the top prison in the federal government. There are many serious criminals locked up here. Wang Zhong said expressionlessly. Others are avoiding these people. Why do you seem to be in a hurry to come here? Hee. Shen Shuangshuang did not say anything. She only smiled and stuck out her tongue. Today, Wang Zhong did not go out to sunbathe. After letting Shen Shuangshuang leave, Wang Zhong opened the system panel. When he opened it, the sound of saving memory sounded in his mind. Then, the mission panel from the previous game appeared in front of him. Mission character: Stone Tribe's Desolate Slave Blockhead. Mission objective: I don't want to be a desolate slave for the rest of my life. I want to be a warrior. I want to unify the vast wilderness. Completed. Lifespan 48. Partner 15. You have many partners. One of them has been with you since you were at your most bitter and difficult time. Another admires you and treats you as the son of heaven. The other partners also respect you. In their eyes, you are the best. Offspring 9. You have many offspring. 3 of them have great achievements in their respective fields. All of this is due to your knowledge. Achievement evaluation. A powerful empire founder requires powerful abilities, a calm personality, and a broad vision. Although there were many difficulties in the beginning because of your age, you used your calm mind to resolve these difficulties in the end. Now you are very powerful. You are their eternal emperor. Reward obtained: 15900. The reward this time was a little beyond Wang Zhong's expectations. After all, the previous 2 rewards did not exceed 10,000. This time, it was 15,900. After thinking about it, Wang Zhong guessed that there was a reason for so many experience points this time. Although he had died twice in the beginning, he had already completed the game's mission when he was only in his 30s in the subsequent missions. According to experience, the earlier the game was completed, the more experience he would receive. Moreover, this time, not only did he unify the vast wilderness, but he also destroyed the Jin Ligua and made the Stone Dynasty an overlord. It was because of so many reasons that he had so many experience points this time. Now, with the experience points from before, he had a total of 19,223 experience points. These experience points were a huge fortune. He was very happy from the bottom of his heart. He did not hesitate to exchange for health potions. 10,000 experience points for health potions successful. With the injection of the health potions, Wang Zhong felt his body enter a state of extreme joy. He subconsciously moved his legs. He was very happy because his legs had recovered. However, because he had been paralyzed for a long time, the muscles in his legs had atrophied. However, this was not a big problem. As long as he persevered, he would be able to return to normal. Wang Zhong could not help but look forward to it. If this continued, how would he leave after his body recovered? He originally thought that he would only be able to lie in bed for the rest of his life. But now, he had hope for life. At this time, the system that had just closed sounded again. Ding! Successfully unlocked a new reborn character. Zhao Xiaodong, son of Zhao Dahai of the Auspicious in Snow City. Quest objective. Why can other people live to 100 years old? Why can other people marry and have children? Why can other people not die so easily? Why? Why can I only live to 21 years old when I have such good conditions? I am not sick, so why should I die at such a good age? I don't want to live so short. I want to live, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live, I want to marry and have children. I unlocked a new reborn character so early this time. Wang Zhong looked at the words in front of him and felt a strong sense of resentment. Chapter 101. There was a lot of information in this mission. The background should be in ancient times. This time, his name was Zhao Xiaodong, the son of the owner of the Auspicious Inn in Snow City. From this, it could be seen that his family was no longer poor like before. They were even slaves. Their living conditions should be good. However, the question was, why was his lifespan short? This was a little strange. The amount of information given in the mission objective was too little. However, one thing was certain. This time, it was not to make money. Short lifespan. I can only live to 21 years old. Why did I die? First of all, it was certain that he did not die of illness or an accident. There must be other reasons. All of a sudden, Wang Zhong listed a few points. 1. Revenge. This was very likely. 2. Disaster. This was not very likely. If he died because of a disaster, his resentment should not be so strong. 3. Zhao Xiaodong's original lifespan was 21 years old. Thinking of this, Wang Zhong felt that the first and third points were the most likely. However, the third point was a little strange. What was the reason that his lifespan was only 21 years old? Wang Zhong felt that there must be something fishy about this matter. Although the mission had appeared, Wang Zhong was not in a hurry to enter the game. After all, he had experienced so many game worlds. Even with the save function, there were still a few memories in the depths of his soul. He was ready to take advantage of these days to rest. Late at night, after hearing the sound of the prison guards patrolling outside, Wang Zhong lifted the blanket with his right hand and began to exercise his legs. 1, 2, 3. He was doing a kicking exercise. This exercise could exercise the leg muscles and waist muscles. However, Wang Zhong was very tired. Because his waist muscles had not fully recovered, he could only take it slowly. Wang Zhong guessed that Shen Shuangshuang would find out about his body sooner or later. After all, she washed his body every day. The muscles on his body could not lie. However, there was no other way. Therefore, Wang Zhong was thinking about how to seal Shen Shuangshuang's mouth. The next day, after Wang Zhong woke up, his right hand continued to exercise under the blanket. He had actually woken up a long time ago, but was just pretending to be asleep. Therefore, he immediately sensed that there was someone hiding in the corner at the door. The reason why he knew was because he had heard the footsteps of the prison guards. The footsteps were not the heavy footsteps of the prison guards but very nimble. Wang Zhong immediately knew that the new nurse, Shen Shuangshuang, had arrived. However, since this girl was here, she deliberately hid and didn't come in. What was she trying to do? Wang Zhong did not know, but this Shen Shuangshuang was indeed strange. At such a young age, she wasn't afraid of murderers, but she came in to serve him. She was already here, but she didn't come in and peeped at him. Hee, there must be a problem. Cough, cough, cough. Wang Zhong deliberately coughed to indicate that he had woken up. It was only then that Shen Shuangshuang pushed the trolley and knocked on the door. You're awake? Where are the prison guards? He went to patrol and hasn't come yet. Shen Shuangshuang entered the room. Just like yesterday, she cleaned up Wang Zhong's body. Her skillful movements were frightening. It was as if she had specially learned how to do it. When she saw Wang Zhong's legs, she was slightly stunned, because she found that his legs were a little red. Moreover, she was surprised to find that Wang Zhong's right hand and left hand were obviously thicker and thinner. Was this person really paralyzed? However, Shen Shuangshuang did not say anything. On this day, Wang Zhong went out to bask in the sun. His mind was still thinking about the next game world. Now he had 9,233 experience points in his hands. In other words, these experience points were enough for him to die many times. Thinking of this, he smiled in his heart. It was good to die many times. You seem to be very happy. On the field, the strange woman sucking on her middle finger glanced at Wang Zhong. I'm very happy every day. This woman was very interesting. She had come in because she had killed a lot of people. However, she had said that those people were trying to harm her. She had killed them to protect herself, because she knew what those people were thinking. She had killed them to protect herself. The judge believed in the evidence. This woman could not produce any evidence. Therefore, the psychologist said that she was suffering from paranoia. However, after interacting with this woman these days, Wang Zhong found that she seemed to be able to read people's minds. For example, he was clearly paralyzed, but she could still see that he was happy. This strange woman would only talk to him when he was in a good mood. What do you think of the nurse who pushed me in just now? Wang Zhong asked softly. Interesting. She's really interesting. The strange woman gently bit on the fruit she planted. She walked left and right alone, seemingly very happy. Interesting. Wang Zhong could not help but look at Shen Shuangshuang, who was chatting with the prison guard at the door. Seeing Wang Zhong looking at her, Shen Shuangshuang also looked over and waved playfully. Interesting indeed, Wang Zhong said in his heart. After that, Wang Zhong did not enter the game. He rested for a total of 5 days. In these 5 days he had been training his body every day. Now he could feel his legs. As for his right hand, it had recovered very well. It was just that his muscles were not as strong as before. It's about time. Let's enter the game. Wang Zhong did not plan to wait any longer. Loading into the game, reincarnated character. Zhao Xiaodong, son of Snow City's Auspicious Inn's owner Zhao Dahai. Character introduction. The Auspicious Inn is a famous cheap inn in Snow City. Zhao Xiaodong is the only son of the Auspicious Inn's owner Zhao Dahai. He has been loved since he was young. Zhao Xiaodong has lived a good life since he was young. However, everyone knows that he will not live past the age of 21. Zhao Xiaodong is not convinced. He has been healthy since he was young. He has lived a good life without any illnesses. Why can't he live past the age of 21? He wants to fight against fate. He wants to continue living. However, on his 21st birthday, he still passed away in the middle of the night. No one can change this rule. Mission objective. Why can other people live to 100 years old? Why can other people marry and have children? Why can other people not die easily? Why? Why can I only live to 21 years old, when I have such good conditions? I don't have any illness, so why should I die at such a good age? I don't want to live a short life. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to marry and have children. Heartwarming tip. If you want to live, you have to break the rules. Remember, there are many people who can help you. However, there are some things that you can only rely on yourself. The character introduction this time is a little strange. Wang Zhong's heart skipped a beat. His identity in this life was not that bad. However, he could not live past the age of 21. Looks like I have to do some research. Why can't I live past the age of 21? A white light flashed quickly. Dahai, my stomach seems to be moving. A woman's gentle voice sounded. Don't worry, Ayan. I've already found 5 midwives. They are the best in the city. As he spoke, the man shouted, hurry up and enter the house. Ayan seems to be about to give birth. Hey, I'm coming. Wang Zhong subconsciously knew that he was in his mother's stomach. However, this time he felt very strange, because the 5 midwives outside clearly came in. Why didn't he come out? Ayan, why isn't he born yet? A midwife asked. Maybe he doesn't want to come out yet. Ayan said, I heard that it's better for the child to grow in the stomach for a few more days. Well, can you bear it? The man asked. It's okay. I'll rest and give birth in a few days. Wang Zhong. Chapter 102. This time, Wang Zhong felt strange because he had been in his mother's womb for 3 days. Originally, he wanted to kick his mother and urge her to come out. But when he remembered that his kick had caused his mother to die from the pain, he decided to let him be. After 3 days, his mother finally could not take it anymore and was brought out by 5 midwives. Congratulations, shopkeeper Zhao. Congratulations, shopkeeper Zhao, it's a son. Look at this child, his body is so strong. A midwife said with a smile. Haha, I didn't expect that I, Zhao Dahai, would still be able to have a child in my middle age. Wei Yan, it's been hard on you. Zhao Dahai said excitedly. Dahai, what are you talking about? You and I are husband and wife, this is what I should do. His mother replied weakly. It's cold outside, you have to wear more clothes for the child. Don't worry, Ayin, we are midwives. More than half of the children in Snow City are delivered by us, so you don't have to worry about taking care of the child. Another midwife said with a smile. Shopkeeper Zhao, you haven't named the child yet, right? What's his name? This child was born in winter, so let's call him Xiaodong. Zhao Dahai said with a smile. Zhao Xiaodong, good name, good name. A few midwives were flattering her. Is this the origin of my name? How casual. Wang Zhong thought in his heart, but the environment around him was indeed very comfortable. Although he had not opened his eyes, he could feel that there was a heater in the room, and steam was rising around him. Father's name is Zhao Dahai. Mother's name is Wei Yan. Seeing that they are so concerned about me, the people around me are also very polite. But why can't I live past 21? 3 months later, in the lobby of the auspicious inn, there was a little kid named Zhao Xiaodong. It was also on this day that Wang Zhong was finally able to walk after stumbling around. Zhao Dahai realized that his child had a different personality from other children since he was young. He was calm and did not like to play. Originally, he had bought a lot of toys for the child to play with, but the child didn't like them. Instead, he went to his study from time to time and liked to take some books to read. This child will definitely become a scholar in the future. Zhao Dahai was even happier to see that the child was so sensible. A year later, after Wang Zhong's exploration, he finally understood the situation around him. His father, Zhao Dahai, was 40 years old, while his mother, Wei Yan, was only 25 years old. They had been married for less than 3 years. Therefore, Zhao Dahai could be considered as having a son in his middle age. After all, 40 years old was not a young age. This made Wang Zhong feel very strange. His father's conditions were so good, and he didn't have any bad habits. He was also very good to his wife. Why did he only get married at 40? Unfortunately, he was too young now, so he had to ask about this question later. The auspicious inn's business was good. There were often residents who were on their way to stay. Originally, Wang Zhong wanted to listen to the conversations of these residents. Unfortunately, for his safety, Zhao Dahai and Wei Yin did not allow him to move around in the main hall. He could only move around in the backyard. Helpless, he could only want to read books to find out everything about this world. Unfortunately, his father was not a scholar. Therefore, there were not many books in the study. Most of them were ghost stories and novels. Wang Zhong was not interested in these novels. On his first birthday, Zhao Dahai held a grand celebration for Wang Zhong. Many people came. Some were neighbors, and some were Zhao Dahai's friends. During the banquet, many people came to see Wang Zhong. They praised the child for being sensible. Compared to the other children present, Wang Zhong did not cry or make a fuss. This child is really cute. Old Zhao, now that you have a son, do you still remember what we said back then? After 3 rounds of wine, when Zhao Dahai was holding Wang Zhong, one of his friends at the table spoke. Haha, Laolin, I was just about to mention this. Hee, although I, Laolin, have a daughter who is 3 years older than Xiaodong. But as the saying goes, a daughter who is 3 years older will have a golden brick. If you don't mind, let's get married. In the future, we will be even closer. What are you saying? Your daughter has been so cute since she was young. If she wants to be my daughter-in-law, I can't ask for anything more. This matter is settled. After that, the two of them continued to chat. From their conversation, Wang Zhong found out that his future father-in-law was called Lin Prefectures and was in the cloth business. From his clothes, it could be seen that Lin Prefecture's conditions were not bad. Therefore, the two families could be considered to be well matched. As they chatted, a little girl with a ponytail ran over and was carried by Lin Prefecture's father. He pointed at Wang Zhong and smiled. Good girl, this is Xiaodong. The two of you kiss. Wang Zhong was a little speechless. Was this little girl his future daughter-in-law? Sure enough, she was quite pretty. We haven't seen each other for a year and Lin Wu is already so tall. Will she be taking the test in 2 years? Zhao Dahai suddenly said. Hearing this, the faces of the people at the table sank. Pork seller Lao Zhang's 2 sons both went for the test yesterday. Lin Prefecture nodded. How was it? Many people at the table looked over curiously. Level 1. Hiss. Everyone at the table sucked in a cold breath. This Lao Zhang is probably going to have no descendants. A man sighed. No wonder I asked someone to call Lao Zhang over for dinner. He didn't come and this happened. It's really bad luck. Zhao Dahai took a sip of wine. However, he suddenly realized that the originally sweet wine had suddenly become bitter. Lao Zhang only has 2 sons. I didn't expect both of them to be level 1. This person is really unlucky. The people around them nodded. Their eyes were filled with sorrow. Lin Prefecture sighed. In 2 years, my daughter will also be taking the test. I hope it's better. Wang Zhong listened curiously. This was the first time he had heard of a test. In the past, he had been brought up by Wei Yin, so he had no contact with it. However, this time, he felt that the world was really different. Dad, what is the test you're talking about? Wang Zhong asked in a childish voice. You're still a child. You won't understand even if I tell you. I'll tell you next time. Zhao Dahai seemed to have thought of something. However, he didn't have the heart to talk about it. He put Wang Zhong on the ground and let him play by himself. Lin Prefecture also put his daughter, Lin Wu, down and let her play with Wang Zhong. You're Zhao Xiaodong. You're really short. Perhaps it was because of the cold. Lin Wu shrank her neck when she spoke. That's because I'm young. Do you know what the adults meant by a test just now? Since he couldn't get any information from the adults, Wang Zhong could only settle for the next best thing. He asked his fiancée. A test? I think it's a test for your spirit root. Spirit root? Wang Zhong frowned. Lin Wu tilted her head. She felt that although this little brother was young, his tone was like that of an adult. It was so strange. It's a spirit root. However, I'm not sure what the test is or what the spirit root is, Lin Wu said again. Chapter 103. Just now, the adults said that Zhang Tufa's 2 sons were tested at level 1. It doesn't seem too good. Wang Zhong asked. Well, it's not too good. I heard that people like that don't live long. Is that so? At this point, Wang Zhong had already figured out some things. Previously, when he heard the adults talking, everyone had to be tested when they were 5 years old. Then he would definitely have to be tested when the time came. Perhaps it was because of the test that he didn't live long. Lin Wu, then do you know why you have to be tested? Wang Zhong asked. Of course you have to be tested. Otherwise, how would you know about the spirit root? It seems like everyone in the city has to be tested. Lin Wu muttered. She was very curious why Zhao Xiaodong didn't know such an obvious thing. Maybe he was still young. After all, he was only 1 year old. Lin Wu secretly thought. Xiao Wu, what are you doing? At this time, another 3-year-old child ran over. Daniel, I'm talking to Xiaodong. This child is only 1 year old. He can't even speak clearly. Ignore him. Let's go play with the sand. Wang Zhong looked at this child. He knew that his name was Sun Daniel. He looked quite sturdy and was also his neighbor. Play with the sand. Dad asked me to look after Xiaodong. Lin Wu wanted to play, but she was sensible and responsible. She didn't forget Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong nodded and said, You guys go play. I'm looking for my mother. Alright then. Don't run around. It's dark outside. Dad said that children can't go out at night. They will be possessed by evil things. Lin Wu reminded. Sun Daniel scratched his head and said, He probably doesn't know. It's okay. There are many people here. The door is still closed. He's just a child. How would he dare to run around? The few children skipped away. They ran to the garden and played with the sand. Wang Zhong originally wanted to go to the adults' side to eavesdrop on some clues. But after he went over, he found that they were no longer talking about the test. As for his mother, Wei Yan, she was also chatting with a few other women. It was already dark, and the gates of the Zhao family were tightly shut. Looking at the tightly shut door, Wang Zhong had a thought. Ever since he could walk, his mother had always reminded him that children shouldn't run around outside, because there were man-eating monsters out there. At that time, he only thought that it was a lie to trick children, but now that he heard it, he realized that everyone around him seemed to be saying the same thing, including the children. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly saw a black shadow appear in front of his house. However, the black shadow disappeared in a flash. Wang Zhong blinked his eyes. He had a feeling that the black shadow did not appear out of nowhere. It was as if it was watching him appear. There were many people around anyway, so he wasn't worried about anything. Thus he walked towards the door. The gap in the door was wide, and there were 2 lanterns hanging on the door. Through the gap, he could clearly see the situation outside. The streets were very quiet, so quiet that it was even scary. He had never been allowed to be so close to the door by his parents before. This was also the first time. Only then did he realize that there was actually no one on the streets. Although it was said to be night, there was no one. This was bizarre. Suddenly, the scenery on the other side of the door disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by darkness. Wang Zhong could be sure that this darkness was not caused by the extinguishing of the lanterns. Instead, there was a black object blocking his vision. Suddenly, a white pupil opened on the other side of the door. For a moment, Wang Zhong's hair stood on end because he could see that this was not a human eye. Just as he was about to retreat, he felt as if someone was strangling his neck. He couldn't move at all, and he couldn't breathe from head to toe. Am I going to die? Wang Zhong wanted to shout, but he couldn't. Hey, where's Xiaodong? Wei Yan's voice sounded. I told you to take care of the child. Where's the child? Didn't he go to play with Lin Wu? Zhao Dehai said drunkenly. Lin Wu and her mother just left through the back door. Xiaodong. Zhao Dehai's anxious voice sounded. The child went to the door. A guest shouted. The next moment, Wang Zhong felt that he was pulled back. The black shadow in front of him suddenly disappeared without a trace. The feeling of palpitations had not subsided. His heart was beating wildly. What was that black shadow? Why was there an eyeball in the black shadow staring at him? Xiaodong. Zhao Dehai picked up Wang Zhong and kept shouting. Wang Zhong felt that he had no strength. His whole body was extremely weak. At this moment, there was a large group of people around him. Vaguely, Wang Zhong seemed to hear what they were saying. Why did this child go to the door? It's too dangerous. Yeah, there are so many evil creatures outside. I'm afraid this child has been possessed. Call the master over. Just do the ritual. Suddenly Wang Zhong fainted. When he woke up again, he heard the sound of a bell ringing in his ears. After a while, the ringing gradually disappeared. Shopkeeper Zhao, your son has been targeted by an evil creature. Fortunately, the evil creature's cultivation is not strong. He may have a high fever for a few days. Just don't let him go out. Thank you, Master Gao. Thank you, Master Gao. This is a small gift. I hope you will accept it. Zhao Dahai humbly bowed. Wang Zhong looked. This so-called Taoist Gao was wearing a yellow robe and a tall hat. He was relatively tall. Seeing the money Zhao Dahai handed over, Master Gao nodded slightly and smiled. Shopkeeper Zhao, you are too polite. We are all old friends. You don't have to be so polite. Of course, of course. Zhao Dahai said. Master Gao did not refuse. He took the small bag of silver and cupped his hands. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave. By the way, here are 2 safety talismans. Stick them at the door where your son met the evil creature. They can make the evil creature retreat. Thank you, Master Gao. Zhao Dahai respectfully took the yellow talismans. Okay, if there is anything else, come to my place. I will take my leave. After saying that, Master Gao turned his head and shook the bell. It's midnight. Idlers, please leave. Ding ling ling. Demons and ghosts nowhere to hide. Ding ling ling. Midnight, idle people leave. Ding ling ling. The sound was getting farther and farther away. Finally, there was no sound. At this moment, Wang Zhong sat up. Son, you scared your mother to death. Are you okay? Wei Yan anxiously picked up Wang Zhong. Mother, I saw an eye looking at me through the crack of the door. Wang Zhong looked at his parents and said. Zhao Dahai's face changed greatly. Son, it is okay. Taoist Gao gave us 2 yellow talismans. They will be able to avoid disaster and drive those evil creatures out. You still have the nerve to say that. I told you to look after your son, but you only know how to drink. Wei Yan's tone was reproachful. Zhao Dahai's face was embarrassed. Didn't I let Lin Wu look after him? Who knew? Sai, let's not talk about it. As long as my son is okay, I will go out and stick the talismans. Wang Zhong didn't say anything as he understood what kind of world he was in now. Mother, that evil creature, are you not afraid? Seeing Zhao Dahai go out, Wang Zhong asked. Chapter 104. Wei Yan comforted. Yes, of course we are scared. But we are adults. Although there are evil creatures in the city, there are masters guarding it. Powerful evil creatures can't enter. And those weak evil creatures can't do anything to us. Because our spirit roots are strong, they can't get close to us. Spirit roots. This was the second time Wang Zhong heard this word from the adults. No wonder the guests are not afraid of evil creatures at night. Wang Zhong said again. Yes, child. You will know when you are 5 years old. Everyone has to go through a spirit root test when they are 5 years old. The better the spirit root, the longer you live. Your father and I both have a grade 7 spirit root, which means that our spirit roots are very good. So we are not afraid of the evil creatures in the city. Zhang Tufa's 2 sons have a grade 1 spirit root, which means that their spirit roots are very bad, Wang Zhong said. You have a good memory. Speaking of which, those 2 children are really pitiful. They are 2 good children, but... You woman, what nonsense are you talking to the child about? Zhao Dahai heard Wei Yan's words and hurried into the house. I am talking to the child, Wei Yan said anxiously. How old is the child? If you tell him these things, what if he gets scared out of his wits, and those evil beings come looking for him again? Father, I am brave. I am not afraid. Just tell me. In order to dispel Zhao Dahai's doubts, Wang Zhong took the initiative to say, no, this is the rule. The more a child knows about evil creatures, the easier it is for them to find him. Everyone says so, Zhao Dahai sighed. But since you've already met an evil being, I'll tell you about it. Those who have a grade 1 spirit root test are the worst. Generally, they can't live past 10 years old. Wang Zhong's heart thumped. He knew why he couldn't live past 21 years old. His spirit root test was probably grade 2. Zhao Dahai continued. When you are 5 years old, you will also have your spirit root tested. Your mother and I both tested to grade 7. So don't worry, you will definitely be like us. Alright, rest early. The children are frightened. Wei Yin yawned. Zhao Dahai went to tidy up, and the whole family went to rest. From then on, Wang Zhong was watched even more closely. They couldn't go out, and could only move about in the backyard. There were some rooms that they couldn't enter. But even so, Wang Zhong had a better understanding of the Zhao family's layout. The auspicious inn was next to the main street. Behind the inn was the backyard. Past the backyard was the Zhao mansion. The scale of the Zhao mansion was similar to that of the Sihiyuan. There were 3 maids and a housekeeper. The housekeeper was old. Because there were not many people in the house, the housekeeper usually helped out at the inn. Speaking of which, the Zhao family wasn't big. Wang Zhong had entered many rooms, but there was one room that was tightly locked. This house was a small independent house on the north side. The entrance was very desolate. Usually no one would go there. Wang Zhong was very curious. What was hidden in this house? It was actually locked. In the blink of an eye, Wang Zhong was 3 years old. For the first 2 years, Wang Zhong lived quite well, except for the lack of freedom. He had also learned quite a few things from his mother. From their words, Wang Zhong understood that this world was abnormally strange and treacherous. Although the city was very good and safe, from time to time, some evil things would happen. For example, in a small river in the city, there was an incident of people drowning. Unfortunately, no one knew what happened. Zhao Dahai was a generous person and had a lot of assets. So he often bought some protective talismans to protect them. One day in the summer, Zhao Dahai and Wei Yin went out for business. Wang Zhong was accompanied by a maid called Sui Sui. Sister Sui Sui, are you afraid of evil things? Wang Zhong had nothing to do, so he asked. Why do you ask? I'm curious. Not really. It's very safe in the city. What about outside the city? Sui Sui thought for a moment and shook her head slightly. I don't know. Wang Zhong was not surprised by Sui Sui's answer. In fact, over the years, he had asked a lot of people. The maids, the housekeepers, one by one. Their answers were the same. They all said that it was very safe in the city, but they didn't know anything about outside the city. This was very simple. It meant that they had never left the city. Sister Sui Sui, why don't you want to go out of the city and see? Wang Zhong asked. You're a child and don't understand. There are too many things outside the city. If you run around outside, you'll be targeted by evil things. Wang Zhong nodded and pointed to the independent house in the north. He asked, what's in that house? Why did my father lock it? Can I go in and play? That won't do. I'll be scolded. Sui Sui shook her head and said decisively. I see. Wang Zhong didn't insist. In this life, his parents were very good to him, and would never harm him. Since they didn't let him in, he believed that there must be a reason. Grow up. Now I have to grow up early to understand more things. That night his parents finally came back. Wang Zhong hurriedly went to greet them. Father, mother, why did you go out for the whole day? Wang Zhong asked. Sai, Zhang Tufa's eldest son died. I didn't expect him to die so early. Zhao Dahai sighed. How pitiful. He was only 7 years old. He could have lived until he was 10. I didn't expect him to die. Wei Yin also sighed. Master, madam, this is the gold ingot you asked me to prepare. The housekeeper Li Bo walked to the door with a small wooden box in his hand. However, he didn't enter the house. Instead, he placed the wooden box on the ground. This was because there was an unwritten rule in the village that gold ingots and hell coins for the dead couldn't be brought into the house as long as they left the door. Otherwise, it would be regarded as ominous. Thinking about it, it made sense. This was originally for the dead. It wasn't good to bring it into the house. Li Bo was old and knew these rules. Therefore, he directly opened the wooden box at the door. Inside was a pile of folded yellow paper ingots. There was also a pile of yellow hell coins neatly placed on the side. At this time, 2 servants also brought in 4 small paper dolls. Everything is ready, Li Bo said respectfully. Send it to Zhang Tufu. His eldest son died and he's not feeling good. Just say that this is a small token of my appreciation. I hope that his son will be rich in the afterlife. Zhao Dahai sighed. Yes, I know, master. Li Bo lifted the box and ordered the servants behind him. Be careful when you take the dolls. Don't break them. Yes. The three of them left and walked out. Father, how did Zhang Tufa's son die? Wang Zhong asked. People with a first-grade spirit root will die before the age of 10. I heard you guys say that he died around the age of 10. How did he die so early? 10 is the age limit. If other things happen before that, he would also die. Wei Yin explained. However, she also frowned. I don't want to see that kind of death again. It's too tragic. Sai, there's no choice. Our son will be tested for his spirit root in 2 years. We have to go and see those masters. Father, who are those masters? Wang Zhong asked. They are the most powerful people in the city. When the time comes for your spirit root test, they will also be the ones to test it. With that, Zhao Dahai urged Wei Yan. Go in and take out the things that the masters gave us. Son, let's go in. The three of them entered the house. Zhao Dahai looked outside carefully, and then closed the door. At this time, Wei Yan took out a folded piece of paper. She carefully opened it, and there was a pile of black powder inside. Son, we specially asked for this for the masters. Your father spent 100 taels of silver. Wei Yan poured a cup of water from the side and handed it to Wang Zhong. Drink this. Chapter 105. Looking at this black stuff, Wang Zhong instinctively wanted to refuse. After all, this black stuff didn't look very good. What if he got a stomachache? But he also knew that he didn't understand this world as well as his parents. His parents were undoubtedly good to him, so he didn't refuse. Instead, he asked, Dad, Mom, can you tell me what this is? Don't keep treating me like a child. There are some things that I understand. If you hide it from me, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Wang Zhong said it very calmly. Zhao Dahai and his wife were stunned. They had long felt that their son was more mature than other children. But after hearing what he said just now, he was more than mature. He was already mature. Seeing her son so serious, Wei Yin said, Husband, our son is so smart. Just tell him. I was worried that you wouldn't understand. But since you asked, I'll tell you. This thing can make your spirit root test better. Better? In other words, the grade of my spirit root will be higher? Wang Zhong asked. As expected of our son. Just a little hint, and you understand. This thing is called spirit root ash. Soaking it in water can make one's spirit root better. Many children have tested very good spirit root after eating this, Zhao Dahai explained. Wang Zhong lowered his head and looked at this pile of black powder. There was no fluctuation in his heart. The original owner died at the age of 21. This meant that this spirit root ash didn't have any effect at all. But he still had to drink this thing. It was better than no help at all. After drinking it, Wang Zhong didn't have any abnormalities. Wei Yin immediately packed up her things inside. Fortunately, Zhang Tufa's second son is still young. Otherwise, he would have been sent out of the city. Isn't that so? But Laolin has a nephew. Wasn't he tested at the 3rd level before? He's 15 years old this year. Isn't that? Wei Yan's face paled. Zhao Dahai sighed. Yes, they were sent to the mass grave. They just left today. There's no other way. If the things from that place come over, it will be very troublesome. Someone has to do this. How pitiful. Father, are you saying that those with low-grade spiritual roots will be sent out of the city? Wang Zhong asked. Of course, those people won't live for long. Before they die, they have to make some contributions to the people in the city. Otherwise, although there are masters in the city, if there are too many evil creatures, it will be very troublesome. Wang Zhong's heart sank. His spirit root should also be very weak. Didn't this mean that he would also be sent out of the city when the time came? Laolin's nephew is really unlucky. He was sent to a mass grave instead of other places. Wei Yin sighed. That place is basically a place of death. Didn't a guide team go there last year? They didn't even come back. Even their bodies couldn't be found. It's still better than the Gao village. Wasn't a guide team found in the Gao village? They were all tied up and had their blood sucked dry. It's said that they watched their blood being sucked dry bit by bit. That's even worse. Stop talking. The child is here. He's scared, Zhao Dahai said and glanced at Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong consciously pretended to be asleep on the bed, as if he didn't hear their conversation. Phew. Fortunately, our son is asleep. Otherwise, knowing about these dead people will leave a psychological shadow in his heart. Zhao Dahai reminded. You spoil him. What if he's spoiled? Wei Yan slightly blamed. If he's spoiled, then so be it. This world isn't for humans. We have to be careful every day and die at the slightest move. Sai, this son of ours, we don't want him to be rich. We just want him to live a peaceful life. Listening to his parents' conversation, Wang Zhong didn't say anything. His heart felt warm. At the same time, he silently absorbed this knowledge in his heart. From their conversation, he understood that the outside of Snow City was really dangerous. There were mass graves in the Gao village. Just listening to what happened in these places was enough to make his hair stand on end. The guide team was collectively missing. The entire guide team was sucked dry of blood. Following that, Zhao Dahai and Wei Yin continued to talk. However, they were talking about trivial matters. Wang Zhong gradually fell asleep. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the year. This year, Wang Zhong was 4 years old. His so-called fiancée was said to be going to have her spirit roots tested. Logically speaking, the spirit roots test could be done at the age of 5. However, some wealthy families would secretly pay some money for their children to have their spirit roots tested at a later age. This was because there was an unwritten rule among the people. It was said that the later a child had their spirit roots tested, the higher the grade of their spirit roots. Xiao Dong, Lin Wu, this child, is going to have her spirit roots tested today. You guys have arranged an arranged marriage. Do you want to go and see? Early in the morning, Zhao Dahai smiled as he hugged Wang Zhong. Of course I want to. When Wang Zhong heard this, it was exactly what he wanted. I heard from Laolin that this time, he gave the tester 150 taels of silver, before reluctantly allowing Lin Wu to have her spirit roots tested at the age of 7. The price is really getting higher and higher. Didn't they say it was only 100 taels of silver before? Wei Yan held the clothes and helped Wang Zhong put them on while chattering nonstop. Her appetite has gotten bigger. There's no way around it. However, that tester was quite polite. Even if others gave money, they could only delay the test until the age of 6. Letting Lin Wu wait until the age of 7 is already good enough. Zhao Dahai explained. After changing the child's clothes, let's go there early. Laolin is probably waiting for us. Okay. These days, Wang Zhong understood a lot. In general, the most important thing in this world was not money or power, but the spirit roots test. The spirit roots test was even more important than the college entrance examination, because it could directly affect the life of a 5-year-old child. The higher the spirit roots, the longer the child would live. The longer the child lived, the better the future would be. For example, Zhao Dahai and Wei Yan both had level 7 spirit roots when they were young, which meant that they could live to at least 70 years old. Of course, this referred to living to at least 70 years old, under the condition that there were no accidents. And a low spirit root meant that the child would not live long. For example, Zhang Tufa's 2 children had level 1 spirit roots, which meant that they could live to at most 10 years old. Wang Zhong did not know why. Obviously, children did not have any diseases, but once their lifespan was up they would really die. And it was said that when they died, they looked very miserable. Although he had not seen it, after his mother Wei Yan saw it once, she did not eat for a few days. From this, Wang Zhong analyzed that if a level 1 spirit root could live to 10 years old, then level 2, level 3, and level 4 spirit roots should correspond to 20, 30, 40 years old, and so on. Some level 2 and level 3 spirit roots had an awkward lifespan. They all reached the end of their lifespan when they were in their prime. It was very miserable. The 3 of them went out together. Along the way, many people met Zhao Dahai and greeted him warmly. Looking at where these people were heading, it was obvious that they were all walking towards the big square in front of the city lord's mansion. Wang Zhong had been to the market once before. That place was very big, and there were soldiers guarding it during the day. Laolin. Finally, they arrived at the entrance of a shop called Lin's Cloth. Zhao Dahai greeted him from afar. Lin Wu was being carried on Laolin's back. When she saw Zhao Dahai coming over, she smiled and said, "You're here. We were waiting for you. Let's go." As he spoke, Lin Prefecture put Lin Wu down. Lin Wu curiously looked at Wang Zhong and said in a childish voice, "You're already so tall, little brother." "Haha, Lin Wu, this is your future husband." Lin Prefecture laughed. Lin Wu pouted and said, "I don't want to. He's too young." Chapter 106. After hearing Lin Wu's reply, the adults burst into laughter. Wang Zhong was speechless at the jokes between the adults. After all, he wasn't a child, so it made him feel very awkward. He turned his head and asked Lin Prefecture, "Lin Shu, how many people will be tested this time?" "About 40 children. Let's go. If we're late, the good seats will be taken," Lin Prefecture said, and carried Lin Wu on his back again. Lin Wu's mother went out at this time, and closed the door. The two families chatted as they walked. After walking for about 20 minutes, Wang Zhong finally saw many people standing in the square in the distance. Many of them had children on their backs, and were stretching their necks to look inside. "Dad, when can I be tested for my spirit roots?" A child's tender voice came from the side. "I'll take you to be tested next year. Kid, you have to work hard." "Don't worry, Dad. My spirit roots are definitely very powerful." Just as he finished speaking, another child cried and shouted, "Mom, why was my spirit root level 3 last year? The other children all scolded me for having a short life." "Whoa, am I really going to have a short life? My body is so strong. I don't want to die so quickly. I want to be by Mom's side." "Sigh, my poor child." In another place, a man in his 20s stood beside a woman. His expression was slightly trembling. "When I was 5 years old, I was tested for a level 3 spirit root. Now I'm 29. Ajahn, I'm afraid I'll die next year. When I die, you should find a good family to marry." "Brother Chong, I don't want to. Your body is so strong. Nothing will happen to you. You won't die." A woman leaned on the man with teary eyes. "Hee, what's the use of a strong body? How many years has it been? No one with a level 3 spirit root level has ever lived past 30. Hearing the words of the people around him, Wang Zhong's expression was cold. At this time a voice came, "Lin Shu, Uncle Zhao." Wang Zhong looked over. He also knew this young man. His name was Sun Daniu. He was 1 year younger than Lin Wu. He usually liked to play with his wife, Lin Wu. "Daniu, where are your parents? I remember that you're also going to be tested for your spiritual roots, right?" Zhao Dahai asked. "Yeah, I'll go with Lin Wu." Sun Daniu said, "My parents came early to reserve seats. Let's go together. He also reserved seats for you." "All right." Lin Prefecture nodded. Zhao Dahai held Wang Zhong's hand and walked over. The plaza was very big, and in front of it was the city lord's mansion. The 20-meter-tall building gave people a majestic feeling, and on top of it stood soldiers holding spears and wearing armor. As for below, a temporary platform had been built. Some soldiers stood around the platform to maintain order. There were many people below, but they were all blocked outside, and were not allowed to approach the temporary platform. Daniu. On the left side of the platform, a strong man shouted loudly. Sun Daniu replied, "Dad, I'm here." Zhao Dahai and Lin Prefecture also walked over. The adults were all old neighbors, and they chatted with each other. As the adults chatted, the children also chatted. Sun Daniu said to Lin Wu, "Xiao Wu, are you scared?" "No, Dad and Mom said that as long as I'm not scared, my spiritual roots will be tested well." Lin Wu shrunk her neck and said. Sun Daniu smiled honestly, "You're so brave." Wang Zhong rolled his eyes. This guy was so young, and he already had his eyes on his fiancée. However, Wang Zhong did not mean to be jealous. After all, everyone was still young, and it was not worthwhile for him to be jealous of a little brat. "Sun Daniu, Your brother's spiritual root was tested to be level 5. Although it's not high, it's not bad. You're stronger than your brother, so it should be better. Lin Wu said. I hope so. Sun Danius smiled, then turned to Wang Zhong and said, Zhao Xiaodong, you're here too. Only now did you know that I'm here? Wang Zhong nodded expressionlessly. Yes, I'm here to take a look. You're too skinny. It's hard to test your spiritual roots. Sun Danius said bluntly. Daniu, don't talk nonsense. Lin Wu was a little angry. My dad said that Xiaodong will be my future husband. Sun Daniu was a little anxious. That's what the adults said when they were drinking. You can't take it seriously. This. He wanted to say that he liked her too. But in the end, he was too embarrassed to say it. At this time, children were brought up one by one. Some of the children were fine, but they looked a little nervous. Some of them directly cried, and the adults could only comfort them. Dong 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 dong. Not long after, loud drum sounds came from both sides of the square, and the originally noisy square instantly became silent. A middle-aged man, wearing an official's robe, went up the stage. Looking at the dense crowd below, he nodded and said, The annual spiritual root test has begun. Everyone, please be quiet so as not to disturb the masters. Do you understand? Wang Zhong knew this person. His name was Zhou Yong, and he was the city lord of Snow City. As he spoke, Zhou Yong walked to the side and bowed. Welcome Master White, Master Wu. As soon as he finished speaking, two men wearing white robes and holding scepters walked over. One of them was tall, and the other was short, and both had white beards. Behind them were a few attendants, and they were all carrying plates. No one knew what was on the plates. A group of people walked up the stairs, and Zhou Yong said to the two of them separately, Master White, Master Wu, shall we start now? It was obvious that Master White was tall, and Master Wu was short. There are many children today. Let's start early, Master White said. Yes. Zhou Yong turned his head and shouted to the crowd. The children who are going to be tested for spiritual roots today come up. As his voice fell, more than 40 children were brought up the stage by the adults. These children were all lined up in a row. Lin Wu and Sun Danius stood side by side, looking extremely scared. Father, that Master White and Master Wu, who are they? Wang Zhong asked softly as he was being hugged by Zhao Dahai. Zhao Dahai looked around cautiously and whispered, They are the heavenly masters of the city. They are the ones who have protected us. Otherwise, our Snow City would have been taken over by the evil beings from the outside. Heavenly masters? Wang Zhong's heart skipped a beat. They know Dao techniques. Of course. In the past, there was a corpse demon that wreaked havoc on the official road outside the city, and many people died. Later on, Master White took action to deal with the corpse demon. It took a lot of Master White's dermic powers, but he finally got rid of the corpse demon. Since they are so powerful, why don't they take in disciples? If everyone can learn Dao techniques, won't everyone have the ability to protect themselves? Zhao Dahai was stunned. He did not think that his son's logical ability was so strong that he could think of the crux of the matter so quickly. After thinking for a while, he explained, Of course they teach. Look at the group of young people dressed in white behind the two masters. They are their disciples. The two masters are not ordinary people, and they are very strict when it comes to accepting disciples. They do not accept those with weak talents, and only accept those with level 8 spiritual roots and above. Otherwise, I would have followed them to learn long ago. After saying that, Zhao Dahai sighed and shook his head, as if it was a pity that he only had a level 7 spiritual root. At this moment, the children on the stage had all stood up. Master White and Master Wu stood in front of a row of children with expressionless faces. The disciples behind them also followed. Then, the two masters took out a yellow talisman from the tray in the hands of the disciples behind them. Wang Zhong could not see what was written on the yellow talisman, but he could vaguely see that it was written in red. The two of them murmured a few words, and then their eyes focused, and they shouted, Spiritual Root Talisman, rise. Chapter 107. As the two masters finished speaking, the yellow talismans in their hands glowed with a golden light. This was not a special effect or a magic trick, but something that appeared in front of everyone. Wang Zhong realized that the plane he was in was much more bizarre than the previous planes. Then, the two masters walked in front of each child with talismans in their hands. Every time they passed a child, the talismans in their hands would lightly tap on their foreheads. After a light tap, a faint ball of light would be left on their foreheads. After it was done, the disciples walked up one by one. Each of these disciples carried a black jar in their hands. However, the jars were covered with black cloth, and no one could see what was inside. Alright, the spirit root talisman has been activated. Next, put your hands into the jar in front of you. Remember, don't look inside. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if you go blind. Master White reminded them woodenly. Then, the children walked to the jars one by one and put their hands into them. The black cloth on the jars was very tight, leaving only a small opening. One by one, the children put their hands into the jars, but they did not feel any discomfort. Some of the children wanted to move around, but were immediately scolded by Master White. Everyone looked at the scene on the stage nervously, because everyone knew that the future development of these children would be decided. Buzz! Suddenly, the white light on one of the children's foreheads dissipated gradually, leaving behind a small ball of words. 4. The words condensed for a while and gradually dissipated. It's 4. It's neither good nor bad. Go down, Master Wu said softly. The child's face turned pale, and went down the stage in a daze. Then his parents hugged him and comforted him. Don't be afraid, it's a 4th grade spirit root. It's not too bad. But I won't live past 40. Boo-hoo. Then, numbers appeared on the foreheads of the children on the stage. My number is 7. Ha ha ha, not bad, not bad. Mine is 5. Sigh, although I won't live past 50, it's still not bad. Someone comforted himself. Mine is 3. Why is it like this? Someone wailed in agony. The number 3 meant that one would not live past 30. If such a person did not have a childhood sweetheart, no one would be willing to marry a person with a short lifespan. Wang Zhong noticed that Sun Dainyu and Lin Wu's spirit root numbers were both 7. Haha, my son Dainyu indeed has the talent to live a long life. Sun Dainya's father laughed loudly and was extremely proud of himself. Lin Prefecture also clapped his hands and laughed heartily. Level 7, it's level 7. I told you my Xiao Wu is so lucky. Lalin, old son, congratulations. Zhao Dahai cupped his hands and congratulated the two families from the bottom of his heart. Haha, I'll be hosting a banquet for my Dainyu tonight. Everyone must come and support me. Sun Dainya's father shouted happily. Since you're in such a hurry, I'll change it to tomorrow, Lin Prefecture said with a smile. At this time, Lin Wu also skipped down the stage and raised her head happily. I didn't know I had such a long lifespan. I'm already very happy to have reached level 5. Child, who doesn't want to live for a few more years? Wei Yin laughed. But I'm old and ugly. There's no point in living for so long, Lin Wu said. This child, you're talking nonsense. Let's go home. Lin Prefecture happily carried Lin Wu. The three families walked back in high spirits. At this moment, Wang Zhong noticed a pattern. The 4th rank was a dividing line. There were many people above the 4th rank. On the contrary, there were very few people below level 4. This time, there were only 2 boys with level 3 spirit roots. Level 1 and level 2 were especially rare. However, there were almost no people with level 8 spirit roots. Next, Sun Dainya's father set up a few tables at home and entertained the guests. Wang Zhong suddenly felt that it was quite similar to the college entrance exam. If you did well in the college entrance exam, didn't you also invite a few tables of relatives and friends to celebrate? However, the difference was that if one's spirit root was low, it meant that they wouldn't live long. That night many people came. Wang Zhong was naturally led over by Zhao Dahai and his wife. Congratulations, old Sunday. Your 2 sons' spirit roots are good. Congratulations. Tonight, you must drink a few more cups. Zhao Dahai shouted with a smile as soon as he went over. Sun Dainya's father Sun Wu laughed and said, sit with Laolin. Let's drink a few cups tonight. Okay. Just as he sat down, Zhao Dahai realized that Laolin was already there. However, just as he was about to greet him, Lin Prefecture hurriedly waved his hand and signaled Zhao Dahai not to speak. Then he leaned over and whispered, Lao Zhang from the other table is also here. The one beside him is his second son. Wang Zhong also looked over. Unlike the others who were happy, only Lao Zhang and his son were unhappy at that table. He also knew this Lao Zhang. He was Zhang Tufu, whose two sons were both tested to have level 2 spirit roots. Not long ago, his eldest son died tragically, and only his second son was left. Seeing that the other's spirit roots were so high, it would be strange if Lao Zhang was happy. Sai, Lao Zhang's son only has a few years left to live. Sai, you don't look sick or have any disasters. Why do you have such a short life? Zhao Dahai glanced over and sighed. While the adults were chatting, Wang Zhong walked down. He really wanted to see what the so-called short-lived people were like. However, just as he walked over, Lin Wu appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Wang Zhong. Where are you going? Just walking around. I see that you're going to the short-lived child. Let me remind you, don't go. What's wrong? Wang Zhong frowned slightly. Didn't you notice that there's no one sitting beside that family? It's said that short-lived people are unlucky. If you go over, you'll be infected. Wang Zhong raised his eyebrows. No wonder no one sat beside the Zhang family. It turned out that this family had become the god of plague. However, if he didn't go over, he wouldn't be able to tell the difference between short-lived people and long-lived people. He vaguely felt that if a person wasn't sick or had any disasters, they wouldn't die for no reason. If this person died because of a short life, there must be a reason. Since it wasn't because of illness, in Wang Zhong's opinion, there were only two possibilities. 1 curse. 2. An evil creature killed this person. Thinking of this, Wang Zhong felt a chill down his spine. If it was a curse, it would be a curse on everyone. Whose curse would be so powerful? As for the evil creature, it's even more strange. So many short-lived people have died, but no one has ever found the evil creature? Lin Wu, you go play, I'll just look around. In Wang Zhong's view, Lin Wu was just a child. So without waiting for Lin Wu's response, he walked toward the Zhang father and son. Zhang Yundong was a famous butcher in the city. His family raised a lot of cattle, pigs, and sheep. Perhaps because he killed too many animals, his body had a murderous aura and a bloody smell. Although his son Zhang Liang was only 7 or 8 years old, he was already eating meat and drinking wine at a young age, as if no one was around. Son, eat more if you can. Zhang Yundong whispered to Zhang Liang. Yes, I understand. After Zhang Liang finished speaking, he saw a 4-year-old child sitting next to him, which made him stunned. Since he was diagnosed with a short life, his former playmates looked at him like he was the plague. This was the first time someone was willing to sit at the same table with him. The one who sat next to him was naturally Wang Zhong. He grabbed a drumstick and ate it. Child, this seat is inauspicious. Your parents will scold you, go away. Zhang Yundong said in a low voice. Inauspicious or anything is fake. The so-called short life, there must be a solution. Wang Zhong said. Zhang Liang was stunned, then shook his head speechlessly. He thought that Wang Zhong was just a child who didn't know anything, and was talking nonsense. Zhang Liang, if you don't mind, can you feel my pulse? That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.